Good afternoon, it's almost 4:40, like 16:36. You guys did military time. We're going
We
to go ahead
converted.
and call this regular session of the Board of Trustees to order. Okay. On a roll call, you'll see that we are missing Christina and Julie and
Mhm.
counted seats. Sorry, apologize. We will entertain their absence at the regular meeting. As we start here, is there any conflicts of interests? A roll call on that.
Trustee Schoner,
None.
Trustee Soban,
No conflicts.
Trustee Miller,
No conflicts.
Trustee Arnson.
No conflicts. All right.
Do we have them yet?
We're not on here.
So also the Colorado Government Finance Officers Association, we will be tabling that until the next meeting as our treasurer is ill today.
So who are we going to?
The next item is the Grand County Tourism Board updates.
Doing that?
Yep.
So I'm Katie Hearsum. I'm Community Engagement Manager for the town of Grand Lake. And as some of you may know, I'm also the PR contractor for the Grand County Colorado Tourism Board. So I'm not on the board. The board has 12 members split across 3 districts in Grand County, which I'll go over in my presentation in a minute. But additionally, they have contracted out an executive director, contracted out a public relations associate, which is myself, and contracted out social media specialists, as well as a marketing agency, which is out of Fort Collins. So I'm just here 2 weeks ago now, a couple weeks back, we gave a presentation at the Grand County Economic Summit, which was put on by Diane Butler out at Sun Outdoors. And it was basically a marketing workshop for small businesses in the county to come to and just learn about any free resources and tools and how to better market their business basically in county and beyond. And so we did a little workshop for them, and I did a presentation about public relations, what it is, how it can help you as a small business owner. And so Steve asked me to come give a little update on what I do for the tourism board to maintain transparency with everybody, as well as just give you Galen or the executive director will be coming by, I think in Q1 at some point, hopefully January, if she can get in to give an official tourism board update on their funding and things going on this year. But I will just be talking about some of the marketing today. So this is a portion of the presentation we did for the Economic Summit. And so this is the mission statement basically for the tourism board is to inspire sustainable year-round tourism economy in Grand County with an emphasis on strengthening the vitality of our local communities, celebrating the local culture and respecting the environment and resources. And some of you may have seen going around the interwebs the last few weeks, a survey that we put out. We actually got a grant. This is Grand County's specialty is getting grants for surveys, but they got a grant to do a consultant, basically asking people what they want the tourism board to focus on for the next 3 years. And as some of those results are coming in, they did give a little recap of those at the summit and the top things that the locals, this is local business owners and residents, really would like the tourism board to focus on sustainability. So whether that's like leave no trace print, like educating visitors on leave no trace so that they're maintaining our trails better, as well as spreading tourism, of course, across 4 seasons and less, evening out those busy spikes in July and at the holidays, basically. So those are the two things that we will be gearing our marketing efforts towards for the next couple of years. We just brought on a new marketing agency. They're actually starting in January. So that will be hopefully part of their plan for us, is to figure out how we can connect more with our visitors to push sustainability and off-season travel. So that would be, we're probably going to rework that mission statement to emphasize some of those needs of the community. And on the next slide, you can find this on the Visit Grand County website as well, but we kind of put this out prior to the most recent election, just to emphasize how important tourism is in the county, even though it can sometimes be a frustrating part of our community. It is the top industry in Grand County and always has been, really. So I won't read the whole slide, but the main thing I think is really interesting is that 42% of jobs in Grand County are directly related to tourism. And that's just the direct things, not the indirect ways that we're all kind of affected by it. So if you want to read more about that, you can go to the Visit Grand County website. This is about the board. I mentioned we have 12 board members split across 3 districts. Grand Lake falls in the Three Lakes district, of course. And our board members include Jennifer Brown, co-owner of the Quacker Gift Shop and Mountain Gal Boutique. We have Ron Ellis in there, and Dave Huber, who is with Granby Ranch. And we currently have 1, possibly 2 board seats available. So if anybody, I'm not sure if we're taking applications for those yet, but we should be soon. So if anybody knows of anyone residing in the Grand Lake area or down through Granby, essentially, but it would be really great to get another Grand Lakean on there representing our little corner of the county.
Do you have a question?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure, I might.
Tourism board, they get all their money from lodging tax?
Yes, yes.
That's the only place?
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. So, the tourism board, which is primarily for marketing Grand County as a whole, currently collects 1.8% on all lodging properties. So that's hotels, motels, and short-term rentals. Not including the town of Winter Park. They are their own separate ball game. So, and that recently, of course, passed the ballot measure. So it will be raising to 2% in 2025. So 100% of the funds that the tourism board uses for marketing to tourists comes from tourists staying in hotels, essentially. So local residents are not paying this tax unless you have a staycation or something. Did you want me to clarify anything?
Oh, that's it. I'll wait for the next.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Thank you.
So can you explain the town of Winter Park? That's news to me for the first time.
I think it's because of their home rule status. I am not positive why that is not included in the lodging. It's either that or that they opted out, I guess, of the tourism board.
No, it's exactly as a home rule town, they can collect their own, and as such, they don't, all the lodging tax they keep. They don't pay any into the county.
So does the county not do any advertising for the town of Winter Park then?
Not specifically. So, for example, I just wrote a press release. We do 6 to 10 press releases a year, which is basically the main thing that I've been doing for the tourism board. And we just did a holiday one with events and stuff coming up. So of course, the Grand Lakes fireworks, the Rep Theater, the Moffett Railroad Train Museum. And I mean, Winter Park had a ton of winter holiday activities. And I think the only one we featured was a new one they started this year, which is a reindeer 5K, which was technically, I think, starting somewhere in Fraser. And it was on that Fraser Winter Park Trail. So we did decide to include it, but mostly we do not include anything from the resort or the town. They just do a ton of marketing on their own. So yeah, it's mostly to promote the other corners of the county. But of course, I mean, Winter Park, we bring visiting media up, journalists, we host influencers and things like that. And of course, it's hard to say no, you can't go to Winter Park while you're here in the winter or in the spring. So we do include Winter Park on some itineraries and things because people ask about it and that's what they're interested in, but we make sure that it's also paired or the primary majority of the time they spend here is on other towns and attractions. Sometimes it is hard to separate.
Now, of that 1.8% that's taxed to all the hotels and everybody, you get all of that, or you get a portion of that?
Currently, I believe the tourism board has been getting, and I'm not positive on this, actually, the breakdown. I believe they were getting 100%. And now the new ballot measure where they raised it to 2% also approved that 20% of that would now be up for the discretionary use of the Board of County Commissioners for community needs. Specifically, things they're looking at are housing, childcare, mental health, things like that. So that will be allocated. So yes, and starting in 2026, the tourism board will be losing 20% of their revenue
It'll
essentially.
probably be the same because.
But it did go up, and again, that's fluctuated on, actual, collections. So I mean, if tourism tanks, even if the 2% went up, it could still end up being lower. So it's still, yeah, there's still a big sliding scale there. And it is still discretionary. The commissioners could still choose to give some of that back to the tourism board if they think that they need it or that there's some pressing issue. But I think it was something that the state passed recently in the last few years that allowed part of that lodging tax to then go back to the community. So that was then as a ripple effect on our ballot.
What the Board of County Commissioners has stated publicly is that the tourism board will receive at least 50% of the revenues of the 2% lodging tax. Community services related to tourism, things like childcare, healthcare for workers, those sorts of things, affordable housing even, are at least 20%, leaving 30% to the county commissioner's discretion to move that between those two funds based upon need.
Thank you for clarifying that. But it was 100% for the tourism board
Correct.
previously?
Yes.
Okay. So 50% they are getting. 50 to, yeah. So that will change things, of course. One of the things that the tourism board uses those funds for, in addition to paying the contractors, hosting media trips and influencers and things that I mentioned before. They also provide grants to local businesses for tourism related events. So if you want to go to the next slide. So marketing grants. This says that this year so far, I believe this is through like October, the tourism board has allocated $760,000 in grants to Grand County nonprofit organizations, businesses, for events, including the Grand Lake Chamber is one of their regular recipients of those grant funds. And the main thing that the chamber used their funds for this year was their new website, which is supposed to launch still this year, I think maybe the next couple of weeks, as well as their new kiosk that they are installing inside the chamber, which people will be able to purchase their park permits through that. As well as the Grand Lake Guidebook, which came in-house, that the chamber is now producing a summer and a winter version of that. And finally, the other big thing was the new billboard up on the highway, coming from the park. So really important projects for the chamber. And of course, Troublesome Fest, I believe, gets a grant from them. Grand Lake Trail Grooming's on their list. The Repertory Theater. So some really, really important entities are getting those funds. And again, as we mentioned, those funds are potentially being cut quite significantly going forward, possibly. So we'll have to see how that all gets allocated. Yes, Mickey.
Of the $760,000, that is all revenue brought in by the tax?
Yes.
And the money that is brought in by the tax, would that matter to your distributing grant money to particular areas? You know, I don't know the numbers, so I'm going to use something really dumbed down. If Grand Lake lodging taxes were $5,
The answer is no.
okay.
So it all goes into a pool and it doesn't matter which district you're in. It's
Correct,
not a percent of the district, right?
correct. In fact,
But it
that is
doesn't matter how much money we collected.
correct.
Evenly.
That has been an argument of this region.
I never heard that argument, but that's okay. That answers my question.
From county tourism, it has
Because Grand Lake brings in,
more revenue than their proportionate share.
the Three Lakes district brings in the heftiest
Correct,
revenue,
correct.
which includes, I believe, Snow Mountain
Grand-
Ranch, Granby Ranch, Sun Outdoors,
Correct,
Grand Lake Lodge, et cetera.
correct. That has, those numbers have changed. That the disparity is much lower than what it used to.
Thank you. Mostly no PR, but we're gonna get to that next. So part of our marketing efforts, as I mentioned, I'm doing basically public relations, comes out to about 10 hours a month. It's just a little side hustle. I am, if any of you don't know, I'm a former current, I guess, freelance journalist and author. So I just do a lot of writing projects on the side. That's what I went to college for, and that's my initial career. So like I said, we do about 6 to 10 public press releases every year. So mostly events focused. We've obviously been really trying to I didn't do one at all in like June and July because again, we're trying to kind of smooth out the visitation, and we've really been hammering in on the shoulder seasons. And every year I get people saying like, there's nothing to do here in the off season. And I am happy to send them my press releases with like 20 things you can do in spring and the fall. One of the biggest ones we've really been trying to push is the folk school and all the cultural classes indoors that they offer. And some of the museums are our own historical society museums and things like that in the off season. And so Galen got these stats, but basically in 2023, we brought in approximately 94 million impressions, which is eyes on a page essentially, and approximately $870,000 in media value. So the thing about press and media and public relations is it's basically free advertising. Now it might not be completely free because we sometimes do cover the cost, travel costs for visiting media. But for example, with the social media, I mean, a lot of we're still doing print and traditional journalists, Denver Post, AAA is mentioned up there, Houston Chronicle, Texas is a big market. But more and more, this is going towards social media and bringing up influencers who have like 1 million followers on Instagram, and they come up here and they take really beautiful pictures of Grand Lake and post them, and instantly we get all this coverage, and that's where the impressions kind of come from. The estimated media value is calculated by a software that we use called Muckrack, and that's a typical journalism software. And basically it says like if you had an article about Grand Lake in the Houston Chronicle and it was 3 pages long, and they can estimate based on the circulation of that publication, the population of Houston, all these different factors, it'll tell you that you got approximately 400,000 people probably read this article, and that would result in like some algorithm dollar amount of what you would actually bring in based on trips. And if that sounds bogus, I will tell you that the first time I ever came to Grand County is because my mother read an article in Bon Appetit magazine about the Sea Lazy U Ranch and their amazing food. And she booked a vacation for us for the next summer, and we all came up, and then we came up every summer. So if that explains kind of how, people are still reading articles, that was in the 90s, but people are still reading and they are still planning trips based off that. But more and more, they are planning trips off of social media. And one of the stats on here says that 71% of Gen Zers will go to TikTok before Google as a search engine for travel. So Grand County does not have a TikTok account currently, but we are launching one in 2025. We are currently on Facebook and Instagram. So if you don't already, follow us on there. Tag us in your own beautiful photos, snowmobiling videos, anything super fun, rad, beautiful that we want to share with the world. And if you tag us on there, then we can share that out to our circulation as well. And so we do, again, part of some of the cost share, it's if we can use some of that sort of local resident generated content, that saves a ton of money for the county. Matt, did you have a question? You look like you were going to ask me something. Okay.
What's,
Yes.
So have you ever heard of Mountain Mornings on PBS?
I haven't personally, but
Okay, every Thursday and Friday in the mornings, they have mountains. They have the weather for like an hour, on and off, just like you were watching CNN. And then they have Summit. They have everywhere around us, all the way to Steamboat. Winter Park they do, and it's people like you that's on it from like a chamber thing, and they're talking to a computer and they're telling you about the events, or they'll show pictures about it. And I always watch it actually for the weather, and then it shows Route 70 and how bad it is or how good it is, or it'll be up on the top of Berkeley Pass and oh look, it's nice and clear kind of stuff. And Great Lake's never there.
yeah, that's
They
a
have the map and have Granby, then there's a big hole. But we're not.
tiny little hamlet of Grand Lake. Well, I wrote that down. Thank you for the suggestion. And so that is an example actually of something that the marketing agency that we contract out. So one of the biggest chunks of money, I would say, the tourism board spends is for the marketing agency. And like I said, this is a major agency out of Fort Collins. They have a ton of other, I think, like Visit Door County, Utah. They have some like really huge tourism destination accounts. They're specifically a tourism marketing agency. And they handle all of basically our TV spots, billboards, which is called outdoor media, any magazine ads, all paid advertising, essentially, even paid social. I believe we just handle the organic social. So all of that, they make a plan for us for 2025. They shoot all the creative, they send photographers up, do whatever they need to do. And then there is a marketing committee on the tourism board, and with the marketing agency and the committee, they determine like what the best outlets are, or what the best, which sometimes may come down to best bang for the buck. TV placements are obviously very expensive. I know that they do have some, I don't know where they are specifically. Gayleen, when she comes to give the tourism board update with the new marketing agency, since things are changing hands right now, that would be a really good question for her. I'm not sure how they make those decisions.
Giving grants.
PBS grant.
Giving grants like Summit, because I happened to talk to the person from Summit, because I wanted to know more about it. So
Yeah, no, that's great.
if I can find out information, I would think somebody who gets paid can find the information out.
And I'm not, I don't know if they seek their own grants in addition to lodging tax, but if they don't, I imagine that's something that we will be doing going forward. But again, that's a good question for Gayleen.
A lot of people over 50 don't go to TikTok, they'll watch TV.
That's true on Thursday
And
mornings.
Well, they have more money too.
Sometimes.
But
Yes. Yes.
it's a demographic that I think happens more.
Yeah, and I know we do, magazine placements and newspaper and stuff too. I know they do some TV spots. I'm not sure where they are, but yes, thanks for the suggestion. PBS is great. Grants are extra great. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And looks like in 2024 we hosted several micro influencers on Instagram. Whose audiences reached more than 200,000 people. So those are some of the target markets that we're kind of looking at for Grand County. which is obviously different than like what Summit County would be reaching and we're not necessarily trying to compete with Estes. We're just trying to capture slightly different audiences there. So anyway, follow us at Visit Grand County, visitgrandcounty.com. If you go to the next slide, has a lot of free resources for small business owners. The number one thing is getting your business listed on that website. It's a directory with an event calendar. So if you have any lodging specials, we can get those on there for you. It's all free. Same with the events listing. If you post an event on there, it will then automatically get pulled into our new event posters, which hopefully some of you have seen around town. I've been walking the boardwalk distributing them each month, and it just gives like a listing of some of the more notable events that again are pulled from that calendar. So if your event isn't on the digital calendar, it won't make it to the event poster. And that poster, of course, has a QR code for more information. And then we just did the tourism summit. Another grant that we got is from the Colorado Tourism Office recently. It's called Destination Blueprint. And that is part of that survey that went out about what Grand County locals want to see the direction of tourism and like where they want us to focus our efforts for the next 3 to 5 years. So they've made a really great little microsite with all these itineraries and like an interactive map and all these cool tools that we can integrate into the Visit Grand County website, which I believe will be up in like January. So hopefully Gayleen, when she comes, she can give us a little preview of that. But we had a good meeting with those folks a couple weeks ago as well. A lot of good ideas there. And I think that was it. So was there any more slides? That's the event poster that you'll see around town. And yeah, that's all. Anyone have any PR questions for me?
When you said tag you guys, is that like hashtag Visit Grand County? I think I saw it.
We have hashtag and the handle. So on the website, I think there's like a whole list of different hashtags you can use that will then put your content into like a feed for our social media. Our social media contractor is a gal named Megan Dryden. She does social media for Snow Mountain Ranch as well. Sorry, I should say the YMCA on both sides. She does Estes Park and Tabernash. So she's been doing a really great job, and she just started this year the same time I did. So we've been powwowing on a couple neat things, but she's been doing some giveaways, and she gets up here regularly to take her own content. There's been some really cool drone footage out of there. So yeah, like I said, if you're not following us on something, Facebook, Instagram, and hopefully coming soon, TikTok. I am also not on TikTok, but that's where the kids are. So yeah, give us a follow. And if you have any good content, just tag it. Yeah.
TikTok might be banned come
know,
January
true.
25th.
That is a crazy stat though. 70% of people are going to TikTok as a search engine. I
That stat. Yeah.
didn't even know that was a thing. So I feel like last year that stat would have been YouTube, and now it's TikTok already. So Google's like way out of the race. So that was wild to see.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
I still don't have Antero on here, but I did email Molly. I haven't heard anything back from her.
I did too.
Okay.
We said she won't be here. Thanks.
Right. And Julie told me she was going to be on vacation,
Maybe you do.
so she's not going to be here today.
Okay, so are we just up for the Grand Lake events recap then?
Yep.
All right, next up on the list, Town of Grand Lake events recap for the year.
All right. I will take this on behalf of Sarah. We just wanted to provide a quick recap regarding the Ghost and Gourds event or gathering that happened in October, as well as the tree lighting ceremony that we just had. So the Ghosts and Gourds gathering, there was approximately 600 people that showed up. It was a lot. We were kind of nervous with the pumpkin situation, but approximately 300 pumpkins were purchased, as well as 100 sugar pumpkins. So we had 400 total. Each pallet contained 425 pounds of pumpkins. and 11 pallets were purchased. So about 4,675 pounds. Almost all the pumpkins were taken. We had right about 20 left over. Seemed like a lot of kids just like to go in there and paint and then bailed afterwards. So we tried to keep them hanging around just to see if anybody wanted to come grab them, and they eventually were all taken. So that was good. And then fun fact, our pumpkins gourds, they are. We got that question a few times, comment around town, but they are. We looked that one up. Trick or treating on the boardwalk. We just got some pictures and stuff here for you guys. See if I can blow it up a little bit. Lots of fun was had. We had the pumpkin painting. We had a bunch of games out there. Caricature artist was Stan Yan. And then we also had some high schoolers come and do all the face painting, which was really great. And also we utilized the eighth graders. They go on a trip every year to Washington, D.C. So they are raising funds to go to that. So we've been using them for the last two events as well. They're great little helpers. And especially having Rowan Hagen on there, man, he knows exactly what's up. He's like the best. So we did a costume and decoration contest. So here's just some pictures of that. Sagebrush won the decoration contest, and Sarah made him a really nice gift basket. The little trophies were hits this year, and these are just the winners of the costume contest down here. And then more pictures of the event. Obviously the fire department came and helped us out a lot that day. They were so kind to roll out all the pumpkins and everything for us. So that was awesome. And then let's see, the annual tree lighting ceremony. We estimated 1,800 to 2,000 people were in attendance for this event based off of the car counter. It was cold. Santa came in on the fire truck, which was very, very fun. Sarah and I went in there as little elves. We thought we'd spice it up a little bit this year and add a little extra sparkle. And of course, Tracy came for Santa and made all of his little pictures with everybody. And we had the reindeer come as well. We've already got them booked for next year because they're a hot commodity. But we were surprised and very happy that no protesters came regarding the reindeer. So that was a positive. But that could be something for next year to have on our radar because we just don't know how that's going to go.
People don't like reindeer?
They don't like them being used for pretty much like show ponies.
Has that happened in the county?
I've heard talk that it's happened, that some people have made us think about it. And we were kind of given a heads up by them that there could be people, but no one came. So could just be on our radar for next year. You never know. All right, cookies, hot cocoa. Oh man. Okay, so we originally ordered 3,500 cookies that were packaged by Mary Mountain Cookies at a super deep discount. We were very, very thankful for that. But not only did he do that for us, he doubled our order. So I had almost 8,000 cookies in my vehicle. And Sarah and I could not understand why at the tree lighting ceremony, why on earth it just seemed like no cookies were moving. And then we noticed that all the bags we had ordered for the cookies, they cut them in half and then they resealed them themselves. And our cookie order was doubled. So we had cookies everywhere throughout the town. So it was great. Hot cocoa was donated by Sagebrush. Last year they used 1 case. This year they used 3. We've already been talking to a couple other businesses in town, just because Sagebrush, obviously everyone was super busy that night and it was really hard to keep up with the cocoa. And there was only 4 of us running it back and forth, which was really hard. But I had a couple other businesses approach us that said next year they're willing to join in and make it a big rotation. So it's just constantly flowing and we don't have that lapse in serving time. 4 cases of whipped topping and 6 cases of chocolate morsels were donated by Mountain Market. I told you about the East Grand class. Firewood was donated by Michael Sobon. Thank you for that. Huge thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Claus, Tracy and Diane, Colorado Reindeer Ranch, our entertainment, Travis Taylor, the Grand Lake Fire Department, the Grand Lake Chamber, and town staff to help put on this magical event. We thought it went really well. We hope everybody enjoyed it and we're excited to keep going. That's what I have. Any questions? Any comments?
I think Sarah, she approached some of the businesses, about whether we're doing the business decorating competition. She also had a question if we had anything to donate for prizes. How did that portion of the deal work out?
So that was mostly for it was all for the Ghosts and Gourds events. So that was just used for prizes for the decorating contest. It worked out really, really well. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what all she got, but yeah, they were all given out and everyone was super excited. The only thing we didn't give out on that one was Sagebrush had donated a sweatshirt and a $25 gift card, but we used that the other night at the town party as a prize.
Gotcha. I just saw that Sagebrush got that gift basket, and I know there's like a thing to get prizes together, so I wasn't sure if that got set aside or.
Yeah, everything got set aside and then, yeah, everyone got to put their little spiders in the box and vote on the best decorated business. Sagebrush was it. Yeah, been fun. Thank you.
And what's
Yeah.
next?
No,
No,
that's all. I have.
fireworks at the end of the year.
He's talking events wise.
Oh, events wise, yes, fireworks, yes. Yeah, next we have New Year's be the next. Then after that, Winter Carnival. We got that ball rolling, so that stuff should be coming out probably in the next week or so.
And outside of the normal fireworks and stuff, there's nothing with an extra layer.
I think next year though, we should probably start looking at the droid situation for fireworks for sure. It seems like everyone seems to be going that. Sorry, drone. Sorry. What did I say? Droid? Did I say droid? I mean drone. Sorry. Go in the drone situation. Everyone seems to be doing that. When we were looking at it last year for Winter Carnival, we really wanted to do it, but we just couldn't come up with $6,000 that we needed. And that was for like a 10-minute show. So I think it'd definitely be a possibility for us to look at and explore future.
Think it's gonna get there, but I think there's some value in being one of the last towns to actually have fireworks.
Mhm.
I know we get people specifically because of that,
Yes.
and I know it's controversial, especially in the winter time when people can walk around out there and pick up the debris. But all the papers biodegradable, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have many customers, summer and winter, when these events are scheduled to happen, and they call and confirm, is it still happening? Because that is ultimately what is drawing them here to Grand Lake, so. Always,
I think we hold out as long as possible.
make it hold out as long as
We got
possible.
about the best setup of anybody in the state.
I also though kind of thought maybe Winter Carnival would be a cool place just to try it out, see how it goes over.
That would be a good first try for sure.
Layout for them.
Mhm.
Got them all out there.
Elena, can you just run through the events through like the spring so we know the dates, if you know them off the top of
Yes,
your
I think
head?
I'm most off the top of my head. So February 8th is Winter Carnival. The following weekend is the poker run. The weekend after that was, I want to say fishing contest, I think.
22nd of.
Pond hockey is the first.
Pond hockey.
On hockey is February 3rd
Yeah.
and 2nd.
I think Friday, January 25, 6. Then pond hockey, then like she said.
Yeah, and there was supposed to be an event every weekend in February. I just can't remember what it was on that last weekend. Was it the fishing contest?
Probably. They-
Fishing
They've
contest.
been bumping
Like
theirs
one in
further back.
January and then one in February.
January.
So 3 Lakes ice fishing contest, then veterans ride,
Mhm.
I think is what it is.
Then Pet Lane Outdoors.
Then pond hockey, winter carnival,
Tight lines of
Okay,
22nd.
Highlands January. or
February
February
22nd.
22nd.
So I'm starting January is
Yeah.
3 Lakes. Then veterans. Then the 8th, or then pond hockey, sorry, first week of February. Then winter carnival, poker run. then tightline.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I feel like
That gets us to March.
That's all.
Did you get any of the snowmobile guys
you know what?
for the old school track?
They're gonna come host a little kid race for us first. Has, Sarah been following up with that? Alina?
Yeah, no, she reached out to him.
Point. Yeah, so they wanna come back really bad. Their insurance is set for Walden for the 4 races this year. So next year, the goal is 2 here, 2 Walden. So what it's boiling down to for them is Walden doesn't have enough beds. Between motels, Airbnbs, everything, they are out of room in Walden. So they really are excited to be here. And it's a different, they're up there, it's sheer glazed ice, like they sweep it between races. And this is not gonna be that, which isn't bad, it's just a different.
Yeah.
If you get used to racing on one surface the whole time and everybody, you can't get that much better, but it's a real testament to the racer and their equipment when they have to go race on hard packed snow, like it's pretty bumpy compared to sheer ice that's swept clean. So they're pretty excited about it.
All right. Do we have either of the others?
So Trustee Casso is on vacation, of which he told Mayor Steve about 8 weeks ago. He forgot.
Oh, so she was covering the D.
Going to talk about the program that was here about priorities.
Yeah, they, unfortunately, Manager Steve, had said 6:30. That was changed to the workshop from the regular meeting, because of the nature of it. And, Enter didn't get the communication. I was just on the phone with them. They will be ready to present at 6:30
During the regular meeting.
during the regular meeting,
Okay, so we're not talking about it at all.
until we get to the regular meeting. Because they won't be ready. They won't be here until then.
Well, I don't really.
Okay,
I want to.
okay, perfect. Come on up. Because we have some
John
time.
Work, 1015 Mountain Avenue. Everybody, I think, who's here was at that meeting of priorities and showed us all of the things that we should prioritize and what's most important. And then we had a small meeting here and Heike was here talking about the budget. And if I remember correctly, the town is going into its reserves this year. And if things sort of remain the same, in 3 years, there will be no reserves. Which means if something doesn't change in the next 3 years, the town will be going into debt. And I think I don't care about the other people. They can come here and say, you should look at this, you should look at that. I think you should be looking at where your priority is and how long your money's going to last. When your head money person tells you you're running out of money, you best listen and start setting your priorities. Now, you can always take 3 years, try to stretch it to 5. I mean, nobody knows what the future has in store for us. But when setting priorities, you need to start thinking about your money and where you can cut back and what doesn't have to be done. Like I said, we have a lot of people here that I don't think they care or they don't know. And when you run out of money, you just go, well, sorry, everybody in Grand Lake, we ran out of money. We're not going to do this. And they're going to go, what? You didn't tell us. I think they need to know. And I think you need to work on that as a priority. That's it.
Just as a clarification, the supplemental budget, that we're working on today is in regards to the water fund. And it is anticipated from the treasurer that we won't be going into our general fund this year.
That's changed.
Correct, because our revenues have grown. So the supplemental budget that we have before us is for the water enterprise, and the board's decision to raise the rates, which will be discussed later in this evening's meeting,
I'm trying not to bring that up.
is offsetting that, yeah. So, but that's kind of where that particular piece is. Over the last several years, the board has deficit budgeted and has only gone into the reserved ones. Do you
Yeah, I
have,
was gonna make that clarification as well. If you look back historically, most of the budgets that we've run recently have been in the negative, and looks like we're pulling money out of the general fund every year. And that has not been the case. It's typically due to the way that those budgets are set up, you know, expecting less tax revenue than, you know, essentially budgeting down 5 to 10% below what we actually expect tax revenue. And then also kind of bumping expenditures 5 to 10 above what we actually expect them to come in.
I'm just bringing up that you have to set your priorities.
I completely agree with you.
Or whatever it is, I'm not telling you guys what to do. But I mean, the public needs to know, and like Steve already corrected, it's something I didn't know. You know, and meetings tonight, and I'm trying not to get ahead or ask anything about that. That doesn't come time. But I mean, I get it. But you're the ones setting the priorities, that's all. I'm talking priority.
Yeah, that previous meeting, Mickey, they were very clear about it, which we obviously keep it in the back of our head, but they said if money wasn't an issue, what are your priorities? That was just how it was worded.
Like I said, I don't care about if money isn't.
Always is.
It's not their money.
Okay, well, since we don't have the Grand Lake Priorities Workshop recap in the workshop, it has been bumped to the evening meeting. I don't believe that we have anything else to discuss in the workshop at this time.
I just have one other thing, if it's okay with the board, at our regular meeting. So we will at item 10, we'll have item 10.1, which is going to be consideration to direct the mayor to sign the contract with Phase Construction for Lucy Lane. You already have approved the bid process. You've also directed staff to repost the bid, and you know the results of that bid. So this is a formality that we have come to an agreement with both the owner, with Tom Stanley, and with Phase Construction. So I forwarded you those contracts. You'll see that. So we'll look at that, and then we'll put the Antero group in between B and C, if that's okay.
Exact breakdown of what's ours and what's Tom's based on the bid.
That's all that I have.
And Christina has a copy of it.
All right, with nothing further at this time, we're going to call the workshop session to a close. We'll reconvene. We're actually going right at 6. Right at 6 o'clock for the regular scheduled town board meeting.
Right.
All right, good evening. It is 5:59 currently. One second. We're gonna get this Grand Lake. Oh, I did that the last time too. All right. Good evening. It is 5:59. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees to the Town of Grand Lake to order. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2.5 years.
Finally getting used to it being on that side over there. All right. Please silence your devices, and all of our meetings are being recorded with both video and audio. If there's anything you'd like off the record or anything that may disrupt our meeting, please take that business outside. Thank you. In the roll call, you will see that we are missing 2 of our town trustees this evening, Christina Bergquist and Julie Casso. I will entertain action on their absence.
And Trustee Berquist is with us via
Oh,
Zoom.
is she using a meeting?
Mhm.
Okay. She will be attending via Zoom and voting on all non-quasi judicial ones.
I move to excuse Trustee Casso from tonight's regular meeting.
Second.
I have a motion, please call.
All right, Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Sobon,
Aye.
Trustee Shoner.
Aye.
Trustee Arnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist,
Aye.
and Mayor Kudron.
Aye. Abstain.
Is that what they say?
All right. Can I get a roll call on conflicts of interest?
Trustee Shoner,
None.
Trustee Sobon,
Conflicts?
Trustee Miller,
No conflicts.
Trustee Arnson,
No conflicts.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist.
I have none.
Mayor Kudron.
I abstain.
All right, moving right on to the manager's report.
Thank you very much. I did post the manager's report in the meeting. A couple things of note. 10 days ago, we did receive, as a beneficiary through the Three Lakes Watershed Association, $1.231 million for the implementation of 23-24 Stormwater Management Plan. This award is pending a $4.5 million Water Smart grant. The purpose of the $6 million is to complete our stormwater management that's west of the moraine. As all of you know, that 50% of the water in the town does run through a filtration system before it goes into the Three Lakes system. This will give us the opportunity to be able to use not only water and filtration methodologies, but we will also be able to use technologies like simulated beaver structures in the Little Columbine that will help create water retention, change the flows, and keep the muddy waters from going into Shadow Mountain Reservoir. As you all see, that the marquee keeps getting more stones put on it day by day. I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3 stones a day, but I do know that it seems that they're making progress. At least they're changing the cover that covers it up. I have been working with DOLA and the State Controller's Office to get the state's understanding of the town as owner with our Space to Create project. Going back 6 years, I do believe that we have a clear understanding and the requirements by the state of Colorado and how we got to where we are. We do currently have staff openings for town manager and the town planner. Code closed. We do have sufficient applications for the code enforcement officers. Town planner will be reposted tomorrow. Couple of December event highlights. As you saw at our holiday party, a number of organizations help to keep Grand Lake alive when there's not a whole lot of people around. Tomorrow, here at the community house, former Mayor Jimmy Peterson and his wife Susie Mackey will be hosting a discussion about volunteerism in Grand Lake over the last 35 years. It should be a really good time for stories, and you'll get to hear a lot about what Jimmy and Susie have done over the years. Home for the Holidays, sponsored by the Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater, is next weekend. Comedy Night by the Grand Arts Council is right before New Year's, and we'll have fireworks over the lake. Our next board meeting, pending the board's decision, will either be December 23rd or January 13th. That's on the agenda later on today. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Next up, we've got public comments. This time is reserved for members of the public to make a presentation to the board on items or issues that are not scheduled on the agenda. The board will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the board make any decisions on these items presented during this time. Rather, the board will refer the items to staff for follow-up. If a member of the public wishes to comment regarding items up for decision by the Board of Trustees on the agenda this evening, there will be time allocated at the beginning of each non-quasi-judicial item. For items of a quasi-judicial nature, time will be allocated during the public hearing conducted for that item.
Don Rourke, 1015 Mountain Avenue. I don't know why people come to me, but they do. I get phone calls and they ask me why town meetings are not being posted at the library or at the post office. So I went down there today and I went to look for where the postings have been for the past 25 years on the walls. Everybody remembers those? Have you been looking for them lately? It only took me 10 minutes to find out. Now it's in the vestibule in something that has been attached to the wall. So it's really not in the post office, it's outside. And the people, they didn't even know it was there from who work in the post office. And I guess that was done by our old town manager. And I've noticed lately that we have really nice, by our kiosk, we have really nice areas. It might be nice to start putting something in there. So the public could just be aware of what you guys are doing, that's all. That's it.
Thanks, Mickey.
Gothard Lane, 1302 Spruce Drive. Just trying to put my 2 cents in 3 or 4 years since the town has put Merry Christmas up on the entrance of the town. I don't know why it ever stopped. It's been 3 or 4 years. I don't know, maybe you think it's because it's a Christian thing and you don't want to offend anybody. Well, you got Hanukkah between the 25th and the 2nd. You got Kwanzaa from the 25th to the 1st. Put them all up there. We're Colorado. We're supposed to be inclusive. All right. We don't make anybody. There's no Muslim holidays during this time of year, so we're not offending anybody there. Native Americans celebrate Christmas. I know the town loves Christmas because you make money. Sales tax. Mike, you probably make more money during Christmas week than you probably some other times of the year. Former mayor, whatever you are now, town manager. Your store's going to make more money. You love that? Well, put some of that love at the entrance of town and say Merry Christmas. There's 250, there's 200 school, 200
Recognized holiday.
countries in the world. 186 of them celebrate Christmas. 186. Of that 186, 165, it's actually a holiday. The other 21 they just celebrate. Then the last 14, 13 of them don't because it's a Muslim, they're Muslims or they're Arabs. I can understand that. But some of the people of the 165, it's a holiday in Russia. It's a holiday in Syria. Maybe not now because the country's just blown up the last couple of days. It's a holiday in Iraq. The 21 who just observed. China observes Christmas. Iran, Israel, and they also do Hanukkah, obviously. Now the 13, like I said, there's Muslims and there's Arabs, and there's one, and I don't know the reason why you stopped it. There's one country that doesn't say why they do it or don't do it. That's North Korea. You want to be in their league? For God's sake, put Merry Christmas up there, will you? What's wrong with that? I mean, if there's something wrong, tell me. I mean, a couple of years ago, I came up here and I tried to give you a little marketing advice. I said, you ought to make this town, Grand Lake, the Christmas village of Colorado. You'd make tons of money. I don't know why you don't, I remember Ernie was sitting right there and he was looking at me like I was crazy, but that's a good thing. You might want to think about that. Christmas village of Grand Lake for Colorado. Think about it. But please put Merry Christmas up there. Are we hurting anybody? No. Like say Native Americans celebrate Christmas. If China celebrates Christmas, what the hell? Come on. Have a good day.
Tom Murray, 725 Park Avenue. And I guess I have a few things that I want to talk about, but also I do want to congratulate the town on getting that stormwater management plan and the funding for that, and anything to help keep our water clear is just fabulous. So that's wonderful. Couple of things. One thing I did notice that there was the fence put up around the car wash lots. And my understanding is that that's going to be used for a new pay as you throw, which in my opinion, I don't think that's the highest and best use for that property. Perhaps it could be used temporarily as that. But as I mentioned to both Matt and Keith Everhart several years ago, standing right at the car wash, and that car wash property could be expanded to accommodate any expansion and improvement at the public works facility. It still is a viable option for the town to use that rather than its long-term plan or tentative plan of moving it way out of town over on the Stanley property, which would be very expensive. But anyhow, that's just one thing that I wanted to mention. I did want to know, I mean, we've been working for years with the space to create over here, and that's great that we've got it. And I guess the grant is slowly coming together. But what is the total cost projected for that?
12.3 million.
12.3. Okay, and we're still hoping we don't have all the costs figured out or funding secured yet.
We have 10. We have 10.
We have 10, okay. Well, that's great. And hopefully it's going to be breaking through this summer. Okay, that's very good. Just to let you know, and that those that don't know, I am a planning commissioner for the town, and I just wanted to relay that we did have a meeting last week, and we looked at this private development plan for the Leatherwood, which is a proposed development. We just had a review on that between Grand Avenue and Lake Avenue. And just my personal opinion, the planning commission reviewed it, had several questions with the developer, but overall, it would be, if it were ultimately built to completion, it would be a tremendous asset, I feel, for the town. So that would be great. One other thing that I saw that and I was curious about, a few years ago, we had the Colorado Housing and Finance Commission come over and put together a proposed development for the town to consider at the Marion Drive property. And on that one, I think it had proposed like 27 units with 4 commercial over there. And I think the estimated cost at that time was under $14 million. And there was an indication from the former town manager that the state would be very willing to, help with put together the financing on that. And all they wanted from the town was really just to donate just the property on that. And I think the cost of the development, under $14 million. So I want to know, what's the status of that? Is that anything in the future for the town?
It is, those plans are still being considered. Later in this meeting, we're going to be talking about priorities, and some of them discussed how those are being put together. Key to that piece is the work that the town is doing on a transportation study, realignment of Portal Road, as well as pedestrian crossing over Highway 34 that. Because if we had affordable housing on the other side of 34, it wouldn't be very good for workers if they couldn't get across the street safely.
Yeah, well, that's a crossing gets expensive, and I think that's about all I had to say. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murray. I got a guy.
All right, if there's no further public comments, we'll move on. We are now into our consent agenda, starting with accounts payable from December 9th, 2024.
I'm going to take this as our treasurer is out ill today. So a couple items to note under expenditures. Four Rivers, $1,309 was equipment maintenance, fuel filters, and block heaters for the loaders and the graders. Ayers Associates, the board approved temporary services with Ayers Associates. $5,818 was the first recurring monthly charge. Ayers Associates has been working really closely with staff to be able to get through our planning workload. And I'm happy to say that we are current on all of our projects and permits. Gold Star Products, $2,248, wax for the snow plows so the snow doesn't stick to it. Harsh, deposit for capital equipment purchase approved by the board to $5,000. That is for the Argo, and they're getting to work on that process. I work for the $12,000. That's the first year of contract services for the iWork software. We have undergone 4 different trainings, and our public works director has been using it to note cars parked in the wrong place, and he is happy to report that as often as not, people comply. So just getting some attention out there is getting things taken care of. $1,572 for lubrication products for the grader for Public Works. Maple Street Builders, $19,707. That's a progress payment on the marquee sign. We still have about $86,000 left in the budget for the project. Northwest Ranch Supply, $14,327. That was the expenditures for the pay-as-you-throw fence and the improvement funded by the pay-as-you-throw fund. We have $725 left in the budget this year for the project. One of the things to note with the pay-as-you-throw facility, that facility has actually been the board has directed staff to have that facility in place for the last 3.5 years. I am happy to see that it's finally getting a little bit of traction. PR painting, $30,000 for the winter lights contracted amount, which includes lights for the businesses approved by the board. We do love the holidays around here. Christmas is one of my favorites, but the lights are all year long. Please see the attached document for the expenditure details. Staff does recommend that you approve this AP. Any questions?
Last payment for the Christmas light
Yes.
install. Okay, there's a few businesses that have chosen not to have lights installed. Has that been removed from the payment?
Yeah, the billings were done for the actual units put up at $500 a property.
You gotta do this. I need to have my computer set up with the, so I don't losing it. Yeah, for approving the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda for December 9, 2024.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Shoner,
Aye.
trustee Saban,
Aye.
trustee Miller,
Aye.
trustee Arnson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist,
Aye.
and Mayor Kudron.
Abstain.
Next up on the agenda is the financial review for our November financials. I assume that.
I'll direct you to page 26 in your packet. The first things we talk about are our cash funds balance. You'll notice that the distribution is about the same as what it has been. There's $4 million in Colorado Trust. The balance of the 8.3 million is kept in C-Safe, UBB, and Bank of Midwest, which are two operational accounts. Under the fund balances, typically you'll see the predominance of the general fund, 4.138 million. The water fund has 2.23. The marina, 830,000, pays you through 160. And our capital improvement fund, which is the result of the 4%, or the 1% on top of our 4%, $782,000. Under committed funds, we don't have any parking fee in lieu. Cemetery funds are steady at $119,256 in reserves for perpetual care. Conservation trust funds, those are restricted expenditures for parks and open space. Those are dollars that we can use for budgeted parks and open space expenditures if you would like to specify from that. The Attainable Housing Fund continues to grow, $282,006. Currently, the tap fees that are at the Mary Drive lot across from the Conoco that Mr. Murray discussed are the only consistent expenditures that we're paying for those taps. The state tax bond required reserves is $280,500. That's our streetscape bond requirement for the capital improvement fund. That leaves a total of balances, $844,000. Our total liabilities, of which we have three: the certificate of participation, finance the acquisition of land, our drinking water revolving fund for the underground storage tank in 2018, and the sales tax bonds of just under $6 million. Next item is prepaids and transfers that you'll notice that are scheduled for and have been completed for November. Under the budget, we're getting closer and closer. So right now, you'll see as we're getting towards our budget that our variance now with 85% of the budget is currently our total budget of $3,075,000. The actual amount's $3,016. So we have a budget variance of $59,669. We still will be seeing both November and December revenues in this. Today, our treasurer received the November numbers, but she hasn't been able to share them with me. If you look down along the other items in our general fund, you'll notice that we're sticking pretty close to our budget in most of the expense items. The cemetery, there were some, we didn't receive as many of the perpetual fees as what we expected. Under the Board of Trustees, you'll notice that we are overspending on that, which includes the community grants, donations, everything from the spring picnic to some of the other items that the board has done recently. Personnel costs are staying within their budget. Repairs and maintenance is just a little bit over budget in the public works. Grand Lake Center, you'll continue to see what the investment cost is there. Next year, some of the personnel numbers will be making adjustments. Katie Hearsom, our community engagement manager, her labor is currently allocated to the Grand Lake Center. That allocation will be changed next year. You'll have a clear understanding of what the actual investment cost is. The water fund, we're going to be addressing the supplemental budget as to what they're going to need to finish that. The marina revenue, you'll see that we did end above the budget. 31,100 was 7% over our budget. There aren't any more fees expected to come out of that. Continue on through pay as you throw. And then you'll see the balance sheet, cash in the funds, as well as our general fund. Any questions on the budget? The town's financial position continues to be strong.
With no discussion on any of the financials, we'll move on to our number 10 on the items of discussion. Start with the consideration of the resolution 7.
We're going to do 10.1.
Oh, yes, sorry. I was looking at the blue dot. Move things around slightly. And we are going to have consideration to direct the mayor to sign the contract with Phase Construction for Lucy Lane. Matt, you're going to be handling this?
Document.
And what we emailed.
All right, Matt Reed, Public Works Director. So you guys have the request for action in front of you guys. So the long story is, we put this out last spring, 5/22/24 to be exact, and we failed that attempt to secure that contractor. So we put out the rebid, which was Public Works 24-03 on October 2nd. 75 contractors downloaded the packet, issued 2 amendments to that packet, and we had 1 qualified contractor bid on the project. They are here with us today. It's Phase Concrete. They are out of Utah, but have a branch in Grand County. So far, they've done the elementary school, Alpine Lumber, several other, the workforce housing project in Fraser, and I'll let them talk too. So all the work is to be billed at unit pricing. We have those numbers. All work is to be completed by October 15th per the annexation agreement with Tom Stanley and the controlling trust up there on the property. All proper bid notices, including bid opening and award to the best qualified contractor, have been completed. The money that you're looking at on that sheet, that is ours. Our portion of this will come out of the capital improvement fund. Typically, we see around $500,000 a year in that fund, give or take. So right now, it looks like we're on the hook for just over 300. So my recommendation would be that you guys approve the contract with Phase Concrete. I'd like to hear from them. Several of them flew in from Utah to be with you guys tonight. Do you have any questions for me or them?
Who wants to come on up? Hey, come on up here.
BJ.
Give us your name and address for the record.
BJ Knudsen, 91 East Kennedy Commercial Avenue in Cedar City, Utah.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your bid and your work practice.
Yes, so it is for the underground utilities and the asphalt paving, if that alternate is accepted, and the road construction and all of that. So we would just do it per standard plans and specifications. The contract's already written. It's all part of the bid documents. Just sign it as it is. It's pretty business as usual. Unit prices, if things need to be adjusted, all of that is just standard. If you'd like me to speak to phase qualifications, I think Matt already explained. We've been here doing several other projects, and people tell us that we do good work. We like to take that pride in our work as well. Are there any questions? Any questions about phase?
Well, tell me about unit pricing a little bit more on, an unknown dig. We're dealing with rocks and have we had any soils tests up there?
5 holes, all with measured depths. So yeah, we had 5 holes punched, 3 by them, 2 by us, to failure. Well, I guess one of them didn't hit anything. There was no failure, but the other ones we dug with the Mini X 13,000-pound mini to failure, which was recorded around 5 and 8 feet. I think were the recorded depths on those right around that rock shelf. The benefit to unit pricing, especially for us, is like there's a 20-foot deep manhole in the middle of the worst rock up there. We are not responsible for moving or blasting rock that is not related to the road. That is all Tom's portion of the rock. So when they do unit pricing, if it's rock, and this, 200 yards is for the sewer or the water, that they're going to track unit pricing every day. So then Tom pays for that. If 50 yards of it was for the town, we pay the 50 yards. These numbers, they don't have this, but the breakdown of what we figured on the 50-50, 25-75 kind of stuff is what Tom and I and Kim all put together on some of the stuff that is kind of joint, like the surveying and the mobilization and engineering, other things like that. Tom's 100% responsible for the utility aspect of this, in which he is going to escrow, or the trust, I should say, is going to escrow 50% of the money up front. Once it's depleted down to 10%, then they deposit the next 50, estimated 50% into an escrow account. And so then they bill us, Phase bills us, and we collect from the escrow account and pay accordingly. So the other aspect of unit pricing is, say it's whatever, 900 feet of water line, and really it ends up being 950 feet of water line. They're getting charged for Tom's paying the 950. If it ends up being 850, they're only charging the 850. That's unit pricing.
Does that water line go to the end of the road?
The water line starts at the fire hydrant, essentially at the top of your subdivision up there, Mad Moose and
Okay.
Foxy Lane, and takes off down into the 21 acres a little bit, and then turns and parallels right down the right away through the 9-acre piece, the Love Track piece. It goes just past halfway. It's split into 4 even pieces.
Okay.
So it goes just halfway. The sewer line comes up from 471 up just past halfway also. That way all 4 lots have service. Everything. But the water would then, be extended in, so we benefit down the road when we do our project, whatever it is. The water line's going to be several hundred feet closer.
Right now, this road is a Class C?
Nothing.
It's just
No,
Cleared.
to be built on this, in this.
That's what we can add it down the road, but that's the additional 2 asphalt.
Right now, it's nothing then?
Right now, we're not doing those. Right now, that's not on the table. It is on the table. We don't have to decide tonight, but at least we know what we're looking at. We have to get the road within 6 inches of final grade is our agreement, and Tom's agreement is the utilities by October 15th. If we choose to pave it, I would recommend we pave just like a construction course. And then once everything's sold up there, and we do what we're going to do in the back, then we do the final cap.
Now, would that be split then, all of ours? Or is
That's
it-
all of us. We're paying. I don't really agree with us paying for that asphalt, but yeah, that's the agreement with the developer.
Who's gonna maintain the road, like snow removal?
We would, it's annexed into the city limits. So we'd maintain it, depending on if the public works shop ever got up there, the county would have space in there, search and rescue wants space in there, so the maintenance coming down, Lucy Street would technically be ours, and then 471 is technically the county. We're just, whoever gets to it first is gonna plow it.
If all that stuff got up there, you'd want a 6-inch base then.
I would want, with all the equipment and stuff, we would want to get to the 6-inch hot mix, yes, but I don't think it's appropriate to do it on the front end until we are closer to knowing what we want to do there. That's more employee housing, boat storage, whatever it is. Until some homes are built off to the side, that's why you do the construction course, and then you cap it when you're done with the final 2 or 3. Okay.
You might add a comment about winter conditions. It's understood that the start date is in the spring, thereby avoiding any winter conditions. That being said, if our crews decide they'd like to do the work sooner, it's understood that we can start sooner as long as we're okay covering the winter conditions.
You realize we don't have spring, right?
What's that?
You realize we don't have spring here?
Right.
Mud,
Right.
we have mud. Mud season 1, mud season 2.
But yes, that is the understanding.
Was he buying all the taps for his 4 lots in this? Or is that to be by the developers?
No, well, Tom is the developer, so yes, he will have to buy
Okay.
the 4 taps because it's gonna
It's not in
be up
there.
to the.
Okay.
And I would have to clarify exactly on his intention, but pretty sure this includes the copper to the property line and a
Right.
curb valve, yeah.
No.
And so I didn't look as closely at that side of it because that's Tom's deal, but that would be, and same with the sewer tap, it would include stubs to the property line.
For you guys, how tell me your process of, there's obviously the landowner, the trust, and then there's the town. What's your methodology between dividing up the costs so that it's very clear what we're paying for and what the trust is paying for?
So we have one single contract and it's not clear to us the funding sources. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I don't understand that to be our role to manage that. As far as I understand it, we turn in a single billing to one place and the costs are unit price, thereby to divide them up any way you'd like.
What we've included for you in the packet is the agreement between Tom Stanley and the town for the way that those funds will be distributed. So that's what the cost share, the way that it is paid. I believe that it comes to the town first.
Yeah, then we
And-
collect from the trust.
Yep.
You gonna have a lot of subs, or is it mainly
All self-performed.
self-performed? So if we sign the contract today, how long till the post the bond?
I mean, certainly within 30 days. I should like it sooner. It's just
30 days.
30 days.
I'm guessing you would want the mobilization piece of that invoice then paid.
I wouldn't expect to bill anything for mobilization until we plan to mobilize.
Okay.
On second thought, we may bill for some of the bonding things if you want that bond pulled right away.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we will do a billing for the
Yeah.
general conditions that I need to start the project.
Yeah.
But you won't pay for the bulk of the mobilization until we actually mobilize.
And you talked about the bond. I don't see the bond broken down anywhere in our kind of bid schedule here. Is that,
We carried most of our general conditions in the mobilization line.
that's going to include the bond, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
But that's an unknown amount at this point, or
I mean, it's a percent.
correct?
That's great.
I'd expect the bond to be somewhere in that 50 range. It was, well, 30 to 30 plus.
Neighbors in the vicinity, dust control, how's that operated? We have a lot of neighbors there that are not within the town of Grand Lake. Some are, just want to make sure what the mitigation process is for
Yeah, we
that.
have a water truck for the duration.
And we didn't specify anything in the contract about needs for that.
Yeah. So that's why I asked.
Fire department needs some hose practice. No?
Hey, we'll take it.
So currently asphalt is not included in the bid, is that correct?
It's an add alternate.
Okay, would that be a contractor if we continue?
That would be a subcontract.
Okay.
As well as all trucking is also subcontracted.
If I have a truck and a driver available, we utilize that to
We
knock
need
off.
it. Yes.
Okay.
It would just be just establish a rate and we'll just pay you directly. Is that how you'd like that to flow?
We have a rate established that you guys just approved in the fees, well, you will approve in the new fee schedule of the equipment and the labor. Is how
Seems
it's
like it
broken
would be the
down.
cleanest rather than do a deduct off the contract for the
Yeah.
town to just give us an invoice and we pay it.
I'm just thinking of ways to make sure guys are busy and
Yeah,
maybe it saves us
absolutely.
a
We need to
couple
help.
bucks.
You bet.
And
The tab up here.
yeah,
Anything I can get my hands on, I will pay.
we got a regular tandem truck, so
None of this work is included on 471, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Obviously to get to the sewer
It's-
line, but
Well, the sewer line's down about halfway or so. But the road will have to send past where it ends now. There's 200 feet, maybe not even quite 200 feet till it acts before it's onto the love track. If you've seen the plans, there's kind of like a little dog leg in them. That piece before the dog leg is actually on the county. And their engineer has reviewed everything and we've made the amendments they wanted to see. Changes.
If you start in the spring, how long is this job?
We have until October 15. I don't expect to use all of that time. It seems to me like about 3 months worth of work.
and that will bring it to a Class C final grade road for the most part. Is that correct?
Yes.
Without digging too deep into this one more time.
We'll be asking you guys a lot of questions about like what you want on the shoulders. There's a trail easement. There's
That was
a lot of stuff, a lot of different things down the road we could talk about, but
yeah, there's a breakdown here of seeding and sodding. Are you guys planning on coming in and doing hydro seeding, or what's the kind of outlook on that?
We haven't put together the final plan on that. I would hope that just standard seeding would be sufficient. But hydro seeding if required.
yeah, I'd be fine with the county. Low grow, whatever, buffalo mix. Straw, really.
It just labeled at 34,000, so I was looking at, under an acre's worth.
I think it's in, I assume I'm guessing it's in the engineering, what he wants to see.
Ultimately, that would just be the shoulders and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there's gonna be some pretty decent disturbance areas up there, and
So there's a trail easement beside this road?
yes. 10-foot
Oh,
trail.
each side? Or just one side?
No, I think it's just
West
on
side.
kind of the south side,
Okay.
right off top. But
West side.
south side,
West.
north side, or west?
Wasn't it? One of the four.
It
One of the
goes,
four.
it goes
One of
north and
those
south, I
sides.
think. I think the road goes north and
No, it
south.
does go. south.
Where's Columbine Lake?
Yes. Yeah. So.
Okay.
That would be west as a dodo bird flies.
There's a lot of dodo birds around here.
All right, any other questions? We'll take action on this big.
I can do that. I can make the motion to approve resolution number XX, Roman numeral 20, directing the staff to sign the Lucy Lane street construction contract with Phase Construction. Concrete. There's a suggested motion on here, so.
Yeah.
I know. Resolution number 7.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Call the roll.
Aye.
Trustee Silvan.
Aye.
Trustee Arnson.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Shoner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Brickquist.
Aye.
And Mayor Kudron.
Abstain. Motion passes.
And Enoch is the foreman for the county and some of his crew, so.
Yeah, I'll be the on-site, I'll be the superintendent up here, so I'll be the go-to day to day, anything comes up.
Perfect.
Well,
the estimator, we also have a project manager that will be taking it from there. He's not here today. I believe this is Roy Johnson.
Roy, he's been doing a bunch of other work out here, so he's very familiar with the county. Kind of a local work up here, what it takes.
Great. Well, we appreciate it. It's a little rockier up here than it is down valley, so.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
And you're
next-
welcome to sneak out if
Next up, we are gonna actually move back to one of our workshop session that we had to skip. We're gonna go to the Grand Lake Priorities Workshop Recap.
All right, Mike, what did you say?
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Molly.
Hi,
And
Molly.
Eric. We have Eric and Mindy here. Can you hear us? It sounds like.
Yep.
Okay, great. Am I able to share my screen? I think I am.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Okay. So thanks for having us again. Sorry we're a little bit later than expected, but we're happy to be here. So this is our second phase of the workshop, and we're excited to get started. So our agenda for today, we're just going to quickly go over what we talked about in our initial workshop. And then we were hoping to discuss and rank some of the priorities we landed on last time, and then finally go over next steps. So where we left off when we met, I guess about a month ago now, we identified some current challenges in Grand Lake. We also summarized past plans. Specifically, we looked pretty closely at the 2023 Grand Lake Municipal Lands Master Plan project, and we were able to knock a couple off of our priority list just because the town has already put a lot of those in motion. We also discussed relevant priorities and organized those into categories. So before I move on, is there anything we want to touch on a little bit more from that past workshop? All right. So, right, we organized some of these different categories into housing, policy, environment, economic development, community, and infrastructure. We wrote on those big Post-it notes around the room. So what we did is we collected all that information as well with our notes, and we put them in a matrix to help us better organize what those priorities would be. So when thinking about prioritization, before we get into actually assigning priorities today, some things to think about. These guidelines we had up last time, talking about having an abundance mindset, right? Really dreaming big for the town. Also, that all ideas are welcome and to avoid self-editing. So we might have some different ideas about what is and isn't a high priority. So make sure you share whatever those thoughts may be. Also sharing the air, so listening to what others have to say, and then being future oriented, right? Thinking about what is going to help Grand Lake continue to be a great place to live 10, 20, 30 years from now. So the way this matrix will look, I'll pull it up in just a minute, is we have the actions, which are the priorities that were identified in our last workshop. And then we have the priority levels. So just simply looking, is this a high priority, medium priority, low priority, right? How quickly do we want to get this project started? And that's what we're mostly discussing today. We also want to start identifying project leads so we can start getting those projects moving, and as well as partners that could assist in those projects. So I think for today's meeting, we probably mostly just have time to determine the priority level. We did get a chance to speak with Mayor Kudron, just talking about who some of the partners might be, which was really helpful to just kind of see how many people would be supporting different projects. And then resources, we spent quite a bit of time looking into different grants that are available. I feel like we have a really good list of grants going that align with a lot of these projects. So hopefully that will be really helpful to you all as well. And then finally, just any notes as we go through, if there's any updates on any of the projects that we need to add. So any questions about this so far? All right. Okay, and lastly, some things to consider as we start assigning those priorities. First thinking, is there someone to lead this project, right? Who's going to take the charge and run with it? Also, are there opportunities for partnerships? Because we can accomplish a lot more together. Next, what are the town's resources that can support these different projects? And then finally, could this project be a catalyst for more opportunities? Because if so, maybe that's something that's a higher priority because more opportunities will follow. So just some things to think about as we kind of go through. Okay, so now I'll just open up the matrix. Which can everyone read all of this? Okay.
Did you put
Or does it need to be larger?
I think you have to reshare. It's not showing up on the spreadsheet.
Oh, I know. Okay. I
Yeah.
know what happened. Thank you, Mindy.
No problem.
Or whoever said that. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. And then is this big enough on the screen for everyone in Grand Lake?
Not really.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
Can we zoom it in?
Yes. Let me. Whoop. Oh, I wonder if I have to stop sharing. Wait, I might have to stop sharing so I can zoom it in. Okay. Is this a little bit better?
Not really.
Okay.
They'll read them for us. There you go.
Okay. That's better. Okay. Okay. So let's start with housing. And we can fill in these later as well. We just started to fill in some potential partners as well as potential project leads. And then we don't need to look at this too right now, but these are just some of the grants that we've started identifying just for housing. So we can get to that later. But so thinking of the Matthews annexation, kind of since we last met, are we thinking this is a high, medium, or low priority?
This is where you guys have to talk.
What's on the far right side of that row?
So on the far right side, it's looking at some of the grants that could support the project. And then also just note so that the Matthews annexation, from what the Grand Lakes Municipal Lands Plan identified, it was mostly looking at affordable and employee housing.
Yeah, it's a medium to low on that one.
Medium.
Medium to low.
Okay.
On the low side, yeah.
On the low side. Okay. Well, we can put low for now. That's okay. It doesn't mean it's not a priority. It just means that there are things that are a bit more pressing, right? Space to create. I feel like since it's already happening, it might be high, but what are you all thinking?
I'd say high just to keep it going.
To keep it going. Okay.
That we
Great. Oop. All right. And then these three, they are a little bit more general, but they were all brought up in our meeting, right? This need for senior housing, the need for workforce housing, and some missing middle housing or middle income housing was brought up a lot too. So even though these are fairly general, this is something that, I can scroll over here. We've started looking into different funding that could be available. And Oh yeah, I think I added this too. There are some grants available to help with aging in place. So doing different home repairs, there is grant funding available. So I feel like that could be included when we're thinking about senior housing. But where do these three lie when we're thinking priorities?
I don't know. We sit here and talk about our demographic in our area, and I think you guys brought it up when you were chatting with us, but our younger crowd, 30 and below or whatever that number was so low. And I feel like as a town, we're trying to promote that beyond the senior housing thing. And I know we're not
Mhm.
gonna build like a senior living center. We don't have the workforce to accommodate the need for the seniors in that
Mhm.
point, and I feel like we would be a shortfall here in our little bubble with that.
Mhm.
I think the senior issue is a county issue.
I don't think as a
Mhm.
town.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Although,
Okay. I might add that for a partner as well.
We don't really, this is Christina here. We
Mhm.
don't really have um a lot of we do have seniors, absolutely.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the housing need, that just doesn't seem to be um that's a huge issue for us right now. Just
Mhm.
an example for finding employees to staff something like that or help with something like
Mhm.
that, I think is another issue. Middle Park Health is having a hard time even staffing over there for physical therapy for the elderly community. So that's not something Grand Lake is um, really big on. Kremling has more of that than anywhere in the county
Mm.
right now.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like I heard a couple low, medium,
Probably just low.
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 Okay.
I
Low.
would say low as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. And that's a good point because in the same way that, we talked about thinking about what could be a catalyst for other projects, also, like bringing up senior housing, a lot needs to happen for that to get started. So, right. And then, so with workforce, I know that there's a lot of development happening around that currently. What are we thinking here in terms of priority level?
High.
Oh, high. Did I hear? Okay, thank you. Okay. And then what do we think for missing middle or more middle income housing?
Can you slide the screen over just to here so that we can see? Yes, please.
Oh, some of the resources. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still on low income? Sorry.
No, middle income.
Middle income.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to keep this slew of people that are here.
Can you redefine the income levels, what that would be?
Yeah, I think that would be something that the town would have to define. I think when we talked about it in our workshop initially, when thinking about missing middle, I know someone had brought up, wanting to have less square footage or just smaller housing because those larger houses, one, cost more to build and cost more to buy. And I think too, this was brought up in thinking of how to attract maybe like younger people that are just starting out their career or younger families where maybe this is only their first or second home even. So I don't know if that really answers your question in terms of giving a range, but
I think that's more determined by the market, and we're focused on workforce housing.
Which is lower income.
mhm.
Fall under workforce housing.
Yeah.
I think this could also be, I guess it depends with workforce housing. Yeah, what those ranges are. Because I think with missing middle, I'm also thinking maybe more like I don't know. I guess I was thinking more like young families, but are we thinking those two could be combined, or just that maybe this isn't as high of a need as workforce housing is?
I think initially you're looking at definitely needing workforce housing right off the bat, just to
Hmm.
be able to pick up the decrease that we've seen up here recently. The majority of that is going to be easily served with some kind of high occupancy housing, whether it's condos or apartment complex, something like that.
Okay.
I think. Fine. I was gonna say
However,
the
go ahead.
larger thing here around missing middle is really policy based, making sure your zoning allows for that and can accommodate that and encourages that if it's something you want. So if you want more of a diversity in housing options, which probably is a good idea for almost all communities, but especially for a town that needs more diversity.
So
You know,
our main problem with the missing middle piece of this housing is generally there's not a lot of town-owned properties that would facilitate the building of the missing middle piece. And with generally kind of having the Matthews property bumped back a little bit, back burner if you'd like to call it. That piece up there is generally the biggest and would be best suited for housing in that missing middle situation that you're talking about. There's really no, we're extremely limited, just space wise in general in town. So most people that would really fall into that missing middle tend to live outside of town. There's and reasoning behind that is also due to cost and whatnot. Now, not to say that we can't encourage people to attempt to buy in town and or possibly make it work missing middle wise with a 2 or a 3 bedroom apartment for the time being. I just don't think that missing middle housing is currently very high on the list. I would say that it's still low to possibly medium, but we've got workforce housing in the works, and we've recently, well, Jim recently completed the Portal Crossing thing, and those ones are up for sale. So we've made some progress on workforce housing, but we also need to make more due to there used to be a heck of a lot more workforce housing in town when I first showed up. And a lot of those have been snatched up either by private individuals or large nonprofits in the middle of our town. I'll not name.
500,000. So low.
Low?
You said no.
All right. Okay. And that is it for housing. We do, is there any project lead on workforce housing right now that we could add just because it's one of the high priorities? We had discussed maybe it could be a public-private partnership, but who really leads that initiative?
Sorry, are you asking the lead on that?
Yeah, for workforce housing.
Other than
Oh,
our
go ahead.
space, we don't really have a plan.
I mean, the county and stuff, but they have their own ideas outside of town limits that I don't think even, the Grand Foundation and all that stuff, I don't think that they'll be willing to even go beyond that and stuff, so.
I mean, really, our next workforce housing possibility is the Mary Drive set. So
Some of it, are we talking for rent or for sale? Sell would be a private partner.
Well, wasn't art space public-private?
Art space is all ours now.
Rent.
It's all rent. But it's, we have the stack. We have the funding now instead of art space.
So if we were gonna make housing this for sale, which I, that would be, to me, a private partner. I don't think you can have for sale housing for the workforce.
You wouldn't, wouldn't think that you'd want it that way, but.
Mostly for rent, it sounds like.
The workforce housing will be
Yeah.
rentals, okay. I'll just add that as a note. Okay, and we can come back to that too. I think, yeah, for time, we can just look at the priority levels for now. Oh no, is it small again? Small again.
Yeah, it shrunk down. There you go.
Okay. Is this looking okay? I can read these too. So, so next we have policy on this. We were able to combine a couple things too, but what we had discussed in our workshop was a zoning update, and some of that did relate to housing. Next, clarify and refine zoning and policies. So specifically, we talked a lot about like the Western feel and how that could be better defined for development. And then code and policy enforcement, also defining the roles and who is doing that. Looking at ways to incentivize development. And then lastly, business incentives and support for local businesses. So if we want to start with the zoning update, and I can slide over here too to look at some of the resources. There are some local capacity grants and planning grants available for those as a resource. But when we think about doing a zoning update, is that a high, medium, or low priority?
And I guess, do you think that the town planner would, I mean, they would
Yeah.
would probably be the lead in terms of arranging that, but is your vision that the planner would execute that, or would that be executed through other resources? In other words, they would write the zoning update internally.
Is this more of a zoning review? Kind of.
Zoning need?
Well, I think that when we met, there was some commentary about like for example, the Western feel was one of the definitions for the aesthetic. That's that's pretty vague, and you probably want to get to a point where you have some specificity attached to those kinds of things, so you can help manage, let your policy manage the zoning decisions a little bit more cleanly than leaving it entirely up to planning commissions, et cetera.
Well, that makes sense. You just basically explained line number 2, but line number 1 just says zoning update.
Well, those two things go hand in hand, I think. Like, are there things that need to be updated from a zoning standpoint? So, for example, that portion of the Western Rib has been purchased and is being planned for housing and mixed use. That probably aligns with the zoning. But maybe there'll be some kind of an amendment or a variance of some kind that needs to be applied for. The other thing we talked about with Steve a little bit more afterward was that zoning is the only thing that you guys have, that any city really has, that has teeth enough to manage what a community, the character of a community. So I know that there's a lot of anxiety in town about the character changing with some of the new development. So does the zoning meet the need to, or the desire to maintain the character of town? Does it allow for it to extend, further to the west as you have some transitions over there? Some people may like what's happening over there. Some people may not. I don't know.
Well, that's more of a design covenant than a zoning issue.
I still don't get what the zoning.
So,
It all aligns. It all aligns.
So
Depending on how you write your code.
one of the ways to explain like the zoning updates is it takes a few years to build something up here because of the time frame and that differentiator? Are there things that we would want to put into the code that would help fast track the types of developments that we want to, that our code allows things to be built in a quicker time frame if it is the type of building that we want to be done? Other changes to the zoning could say that currently certain zones only allow certain types of housing and they don't allow duplexes, for instance. A zoning update would say to allow duplexes in residential medium density as opposed to high density. I don't know if our code exactly states that, but those are some of the other code updates that could be considered. And those are the type things that the local planning capacity grant has. If you're building workforce housing, you don't have to pay the fees in the same type of order, or things to help developers make it easier for them to build. Those are the types of zoning changes that we could put in there that makes it easier to build an affordable house than it does to build a custom house.
So should we call that medium then?
An example of a nearby example where there's some issues with the zoning is Winter Park, where they've got some mixed use requirements on their main drag, and they're getting a lot of storefronts along with condo development. They're having a lot of trouble because their zoning requires that kind of development, filling all those storefronts. And there's a lot of anxiety about that. So those are the kinds of things, you know, and I don't know how frequently or recently the zoning and any of your development guidelines have been updated, but you do want to make sure that they're very clear. And to the extent that there's any anxiety about any of the development that's happening, those are the tools that you have. So I think some of the thinking is you're going to get some kind of a new town planner and a new town manager coming in. You want to make sure that they're armed with the resources they need to help you manage the community and maintain the character of the community. That's what our understanding of the conversation was. So, you know, it could be a high priority level, but you may review it and decide, hey, this actually works for us. It could be a low priority and say, well, we don't really want to spend any time on that. It's really up to you and whether or not you feel it's serving your community well.
Christina here. Just I believe personally this is a very high priority. It is a concern. There's a lot of chatter, and we did discuss that before as to what these buildings are going to look like. I think zoning is also an issue. A lot of these codes haven't been looked at in a long time. Just for my take, I would put it at high, but let the rest of the board fill in how they feel.
Personally, assuming that the zoning update and let's just call it the top three on that list there, generally go hand in hand. Throw all those at high for me, because we've been talking about doing generally like a design standard update and or review for a while. We've had a few of these come up in front of the board over the past couple of years, whether it be roofing materials and or the unintended 30% access or accent wall or whatever that one, yeah, where like
of steel.
Yeah. Just to more clearly define this stuff. And we've talked about that for a while to just get a handle on
Sounds like high.
on that. Incentivizing development, I'm at a low. I don't know that we need to necessarily incentivize the development. I think it's happening on its own as it needs to.
I think I think one thing that may be a little bit misleading. So we met at the Grand County Economic Development Summit with Bob Scott, is that his name?
Yep.
For example.
Yeah.
So he has some repairs that he needs to do to his building. And that's probably not an uncommon theme, especially for some of the older buildings. There are programs that the town can do and establish. We cite tax increment financing, but there's certainly other programs where there could be ways of providing low interest loans, other things for business owners who want to maintain the certain look and feel, but the buildings are no longer functional because they're old and outdated, and they're just sort of making do for a long time. So there are some various tools that you can use that help business owners to keep facades and other things in good shape. You may have some of those, I don't know, but it's worth probably exploring what's available. Especially if it doesn't cost anything to the town, and there are ways of working those tools into to incentivize businesses to stay functional. So I think that, it's not really intended to be like, hey, let's try to get more development here, because I think you have plenty of interest and activity, and certainly it's a really special place in a community that developers are going to want to develop, especially housing. But it's more, what are the tools that we can bring in to help businesses stay functional and keep their facilities in good working order. And if somebody buys one of these businesses, how do we help the new owner keep it in good condition so it can function as a business?
Okay. I would,
So business incentives and incentivized development, those kind of align.
okay.
We
I'd
could
go,
combine them.
just for everybody else out there, I'd go the top three: high, low, and then medium on that list.
I like that.
I agree.
That,
Yep,
okay.
agree with that.
High, low, medium. All right. All right. With environment, oh, this is too small again, I think. Mhm.
That's good.
All right. With environment, we talked quite a bit about improving access to the lake. So we're talking more like public access. And let me just make sure, because there was also some with community as well. Let me make sure it's not doubled on here. We have lakefront activity space as well. So sorry, I'm clicking back and forth. But yeah, we talked about improving access to the lake, preserving open space, and dark sky community. I think that might have come up later when we spoke to Steve, because we found out that, right, the ordinance went into effect, I think the day after we talked to you, Steve. So very recently.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Nope, I need to scroll up. I'm so sorry, everyone. We actually start with Thomas and Park. And then preserving water quality. That was brought up, I think, specifically about the channel. Grand Lake recreation access. Improving trail access and connection. Improving access to the lake. Open space. And then dark sky community. Sorry about that. Okay. And if I scroll over for Thomason Park, I don't have notes there. But I know we were told that Windy Gap Environmental Fund is a partner on that. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So since that was already identified in the municipal lands plan, where does this priority level, where does it sit now?
Kind of part of the storm water management plan.
It's in progress.
Okay. Should I put high on there, similar to what we did with art space?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did
It's
someone
got
say,
$1.2 million to fix it. So.
okay. And did someone say too, it's part of the stormwater management plan?
Yep.
Correct.
And Preserving water quality.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Well, no.
Okay. So the Grand Lake, when we're talking about recreation access, this is just generally in Grand Lake, not solely the lake itself. So we had talked about Rocky Mountain National Park and how their reservation system affects Grand Lake. So yeah, maybe trying to think of ways to redirect people that are going to the park or leaving the park and how they can see what other trails are around Grand Lake. How would we categorize this in terms of a priority?
Would we wrap like the West Portal walkway into this category?
Yeah, the idea is how do we capture those customers instead of making it a disappointment if they don't have a reservation? Or even to the point where Christina was talking about how do we get non-timed access up Adams Falls? Things like that.
I'd say that's.
I would put oh, I'm sorry, I can't tell who's talking.
All you.
You are.
Okay, thank you. I would say the Grand Lake recreation access and the trail, ATV, snowmobile. I mean, to me, those are a lot of our tourists that we get from the park in the summer, and then the ATV and snowmobile is really one of our primary in the wintertime for activities for people to do. So, I really feel like those are of a high priority. Preserving our open space. I think that's we're doing a good job of that. We don't have a ton of it right in town, and what we do have, we take great care of. I do believe that the dark sky is also well taken care of. We're being very responsible with that as well. I would put those on the lower end.
Mhm.
And then the the improving the lake sorry, excuse me, the lake access. Can you expound a little bit on the meaning of that one? I saw Headwaters Marina, but what were we talking about specifically there?
How do we put a trail around the lake so that the public can go?
Mhm.
Oh,
Which-
that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me add a note.
That's funny.
Christina, this is Bob. I brought some of that up at the meeting because right now, if you go to the beach in the summertime, you can't get to the water because everyone's got stand-up paddle boards and dogs and little
Right.
there's hardly any access into the lake. And I get a lot of people complaining about that. Kids running across the street from the one green area to the other. And it's like every year the lake access seems to be shrinking.
Understood. I think that could be, yeah, there's a lot of improvements I think that need to be, we need to discuss that we've already discussed down there. That could go on the medium to high as well.
I think part of the improved lake access conversation we had was talking about the visitors who come here and don't know where or if
The
there's
lake is.
Yeah, where to go, where to put in their
capitalized.
kayaks. Mhm.
And then to kind of mention, part of the planning commission, we started looking at Jim's Leatherwood project on the lakefront, and that obviously has the pedestrian walkway going through the courtyard and down from Grand Avenue to Lake. So that is partially being taken care of on the broader access, not specifically to the water, but to the area in his plans. So
Okay. Okay. So if I'm starting from the top, the Thomason Park and water quality, were those both high? Or what was Thomason Park?
Yes, I believe Thomason Park
Okay.
is high primarily
High.
because of funding that we've received.
Right, okay. And then the recreation access, it's sounding relatively high. Is that the consensus or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And similarly with the trail access and snowmobiles?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Access to the lake also high?
I'd say so.
I'd say so, yeah.
Aye.
Okay. And then since preserve open space and dark sky have both, are both currently happening, do we feel that those are lower now? Or
Do we want to remove those? I mean, we don't need, you have plenty to do.
that too?
Sure.
I think that they could be removed. I feel, I don't want to put them at low because then it makes it look
Mhm.
like they're
Right.
not a priority. I don't want them to look like that. They are important. We've done our due diligence. We're, I think right now kind of stable in that area. So if taking them off,
Mhm.
eliminates them looking like they're low because they're not.
Mhm.
They are high priority, but they're not a need. We're not needing to do anything there at this time.
Right. Okay. I like your use of the word stable, so I'll just put stable and a note for us to remove. Oh, sorry, was someone going to add on to that? No? Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
One thing I would add,
Oh, yeah.
Michael,
Mhm.
on the Leatherwood project, if that's gonna be intended access for pedestrians, that it's somehow labeled as a easement, trail or open space or boardwalk, some kind of easement defining that it can't be closed to the general public.
You're saying probably the north-south runway?
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about?
yep.
But then I feel like that would enter us into
Maintenance, yeah. But I mean, if that's maintaining a small section of boardwalk to guarantee that's there, I mean, it's still in our code that we don't maintain boardwalk. We could always lean on that a little bit harder, but I think if you're gonna depend on it, you need to get it in black and white, set in stone. That way, if HOA changes their mind or whatever down the road, it can't go away.
Okay, we're ready.
We're okay. Sorry, was I adding?
That's
Did
okay.
someone want me to add something? I kind of lost.
No, just some clarification on our end. Thank you.
Okay. 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 Economic development. A little bit longer. This looks small again. So let's just zoom in again. All right. So with economic development, we really talked about having a year-round economy, having some business diversification, increasing four-season events, so things that might be non-weather dependent. I believe a couple people brought up maybe more like signature events as well. Along the same lines as business diversification, stabilizing the restaurant mix. So it had been brought up about, bringing in more restaurants, maybe not drive-throughs, but just more restaurants so there's more variety. There's also discussion around expanding hotel offerings, specifically ones that might have a conference or a spa, which might bring in more people during different times of the year. A pharmacy was brought up as a need. We also talked about business transition planning and business training a little bit. With the transition planning, that was more along the lines of well, and I think this got brought up too because, we heard that I think you can correct me, Steve, that four businesses are selling or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, just thinking about how can the town help these businesses when they're ready to sell, so that way whoever takes over is, keeping the spirit of that space alive, and is kind of fitting in with the rest of the businesses around them. we also talked about utilizing and capitalizing the lake on all seasons. I think it had been brought up specifically about maybe more winter ways to capitalize on the lake, forming public-private partnerships, and then we can get to these later, the Rocky Mountain National Park Gateway. So how can we really make that connection stronger and promoting some Rocky Mountain National Park events? Okay, so if we start at the top with year-round economy, and I can scroll over these, don't know how many grants I was able to find, and I will be looking at more after we prioritize everything. But yeah, I was mostly looking at some EDA grants, community revitalization grants. Yeah, and the tourism management grant when it comes to four-season events. But yeah, just to give you some insight onto some of the funding that I started to find or that we started to find. So
I think it's important with these things to remember, like the goal isn't to create more burdensome activities. You know, high priority just means that we're going to keep our eye on some of these things because any one of these, you know, a single event, as we all know, can take a tremendous amount of effort to organize. So the goal here is just to say where are we placing our emphasis and then, you know, resist the urge to say we need to figure this out and solve for it. Because like stabilizing restaurant mix, that's hard to do. Uh,
mhm.
it's something we just need to kind of keep our eye on and make sure that our partners, chambers, and Grand County Economic Development and others are helping it with if we see that that isn't where we need it to be. And the real estate community, you know, if realtors are selling these things and they're flipping and they're changing hands and they're no longer restaurants, if you've got all the kitchen infrastructure, for example, and somebody wants to convert it into something entirely different, that's, you know, that's a loss potentially to the community. So you just want to get out ahead of it. The Dave Haven would be an example, right? Like that probably is not going to be a restaurant.
Can you give us an example of getting out ahead of that? Because I do believe that a lot of these things are critical, they are important. And I'm going to give you a really quick example. We have a business that is only here in the summertime. They're a restaurant business, and they don't engage within the community at all. They open up in the spring, they close in the fall. I was privy to a conversation he had with a tourist where he legitimately, you know, said that Grand Lake's closed in the winter and that there's nothing open except for like two restaurants at the end of town. It was very disheartening, and I went ahead and addressed the issue myself. But how do you, with your group, address or help them address these issues? What's an example of that?
Well, I think that the first thing, and we talked about this too, is really understanding where the business community is at all times to the extent that you can. The example that I use all the time is we were doing a project in near Chicago where there was a brownfield site and there were three or four signatories to it, and a company called Weil McLean was kind of the lead liaison between the US EPA and everybody else. And it's a complicated project. And I like to reference it because I actually had meetings in Grand Lake uh, while I was fishing once. But Weil McLean was a major national manufacturer of boilers. And I walked through it and I had toured it in high school, and this was like 15 years later, and the place was just completely empty. And I thought, this is strange. And then the guy told me that the company was planning on relocating to North Carolina. So then 2 days later, I have a meeting with the mayor of town, and I said, "Hey, mayor, oh, it's kind of a bummer that Weil McLean's leaving town." And the mayor turned ashen and said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, yeah, they're moving to North Carolina. They're consolidating everything. That's what I was just told." And he said, "What?" And he just couldn't believe it. And
Mhm.
I remember thinking, it's really strange that the mayor of town didn't know that a 500 person employer that had been in the city for 80 years or something like that was going to leave town. Um, huge tax base for the community, all kinds of things. So, you there are lots of community. A different example might be the Chicago Bears relocating off of the lakefront out into the suburbs. The city got involved pretty heavily and helped create enough incentives to keep them. Now, those are big examples and different, but you have similar issues with like the Rapids, for example. Beautiful setting, wonderful, facility, for sale. Like maybe that's fine, and you guys just, we decide that we're gonna let the market do what the market does. Maybe we decide that we need to somehow intervene and try to preserve that as a restaurant in some way, shape, or form. But understanding that and knowing where that's at all times, where your businesses are at, is pretty important, I would say.
Okay, thank you. I agree.
And creating I think where you could get engaged would be to have very clear forums, on a monthly basis to make sure that whatever it is you can do, you can't do everything, but whatever it is you can do to help make sure that those businesses are thriving, um, and functional, and that they're giving the same message, so that they're not saying, "Hey, we roll up the street at the end of October or the end of September." Um, I think that's important. That's a real county-wide issue. Is that you're not the county is not giving the same message. An example for me was in the spring we were there doing some work with Grand County, and we stayed at Winter Park, and the person at the lodge gave us restaurant recommendations, and every single restaurant was closed that they told us to go to.
Right, right. Great, thank you.
So how much effort do we want to expend on trying to promote a year-round economy? Is that a high priority? Is it not? We've heard different reports through our work in other areas. We've heard different reports that the businesses like the slow period. Other businesses say, no, we want to be busy all year round. We need to make an income.
I would personally say year-round economy is medium.
Yeah, split the difference. Play it safe.
I'm just gonna go for it. I think that sounds right. Yeah, very complex too.
I think the diversification is probably medium. I feel like we're pretty diversified right now. I'd like to see less t-shirt shops and, kind of those types of things, but
More fudge shop.
Yeah, there's a fudge monopoly and a donut.
Yeah.
Gotta do something about that.
You gotta make that more competitive. They're charging crazy prices for that stuff.
All right. Does medium sound good, everyone? It sounds like.
Yep.
All right.
I would agree with that. I think you guys for 400 plus person town with the level of interest, you actually have a fairly diverse business base. There's a little bit of a lot.
Yeah. And what do we think about for Four Season events?
I think the Four Seasons is, and I'm looking to the board for help on this, but the Four Seasons seems like difficult. Our Four Seasons aren't really Four Seasons. We have a beautiful summer and a wonderful fall. Our winter's great, but spring is just not much of anything, and the lake is of no use at all because of hazards.
Okay.
But I do believe we want more winter events.
So what are we thinking as a group? Is that medium, low?
I mean, we could shift it to 3 season and maybe just sacrifice spring and say spring is going to be tough. but maybe we optimize autumn because we were there a couple times in the autumn, and granted it was a warm autumn, but it was pretty busy.
Mm-hmm.
Do a mud run.
Mud run.
You
I
know,
know.
those kind of one thing we had suggested to Diane Butler, which I think is still a good idea in a community where you have a lot of second homeowners, trying to get them up there and do something for them in the spring to make them feel like they're part of the community, but also just to get them up and like, hey, go to restaurants. Hey, like help us get the season going. That seems like a pretty low hanging fruit kind of thing to do. And as we all know, second homeowners often think that they are, full-time residents, whether they are or not. Um, so, there are some things that we could do that are not super intensive.
We did the community picnic, which was kind of a spring-ish, kind of like taking over the rude awakening, because that's going to go away altogether. Kind of something we already did, and I think we intend on doing in a kickball tournament.
That'd be fun.
It's fun. Yeah. I can just change this to
With medics standing by.
I can even just call it seasonal events.
There you go.
Take it.
Been a lot of work.
Medium, you guys cool with that?
So the thing to think about is like we just sort of decreased some of our seasonal events recently.
Is that because of a capacity issue or?
No, I think it was we were generally like pulling some fireworks activities, and the barbecue got picked up by Indy, or did we take that back?
No.
So the town itself has, I feel like, stepped away from a few activities and given them off. Am I wrong?
But we host the seasonal ones where, where it's off season. We got the winter carnival. We have.
Right.
The chamber stepped away from it.
Maybe that's what I'm.
We've taken the events
We've
on.
picked up the chamber stuff?
Yeah.
Is that where I'm going?
Yes.
I thought we handed them back.
No, we were like,
Never mind.
Sorry.
So wait, where did we land? Medium? Okay.
Well, I mean, what does Hyde do? Are we going to try to add 4 or 5 events? That's what I'm like. Adding events is like
That's huge.
pretty intensive
Yeah.
per each. I guess
Well,
that's where I'm really going for. Like we're barely getting any volunteers to help out with the events that we have.
No.
How many more are we going to ask for?
I mean, if we could add 2 snowmobile races in the time.
Right.
Low impact.
Maybe what we could say would be optimize seasonal events and making sure that we feel like this is a very solid.
I think that's a better wording for it. For sure.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I like
Yeah.
optimizing a lot.
I just put that in the chat GPT.
Yeah, that solidifies what we have and makes them stronger, pull the portions of the events that we like most and decrease what we don't like about it. And if there's
I think that would, to me, that would place it higher. Because I do think that you just like maybe annually, at some point. And again, part of this initiative was really to have for the new manager and planner and, staff resources and others to signal to them, this is where we want to place our emphasis. So my sense, having gone to Grand Lake for 20 plus years, is that your events are pretty important.
Cool.
I think they need to be strategically placed, especially the town ones. Not on President's Day weekend and not on Fourth, like, we don't need help.
Yeah.
That's why we're optimizing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do we want to call that high or medium? Again, this is this is supposed to be helping to give direction to others. It doesn't mean you're supposed to like just jump into it.
Yeah, I'm going high.
I'm going high as well. It's definitely higher than business diversification, so.
I mean, I would get rid of the non-weather dependent stuff there if we're looking at it to be high, because then we're looking
Everything
at all
weather
of our
dependent.
events. I
Yeah.
know we talked about, capitalizing on the creative district and the wooden boat school and that stuff, but yeah, there we go. That's a little better. I think we beat
Great.
that one. Low.
Low
Not
for restaurants. All right.
I mean, it's great, but it's not our.
Not a huge priority. Yeah.
Oh, the Vietnamese restaurant.
Yeah. Hey, the Mexican taco shack is getting some more.
Yeah, the taco.
siding.
They're putting more siding on it,
More
yeah.
siding, that's about it.
The Italian one lasted a month or a week.
Okay. Now, what about hotel offerings? This was kind of also where the non-weather dependent could come in. So, a conference space would be needed if we wanted events that could be indoors, But what are we thinking about that?
You guys know better than I do. I mean, the Gateway has a spot for events, correct? We just used it. The lodge has Green Lake Lodge has space for events, whether it's a wedding. I've had plenty of friends go for work trips there with their 60 to 100 person company, and it works out for them. So I'm just.
I think for now.
I mean, as we talk about these hotel offerings, we talk about chains and stuff like that, which we frown upon. It's not against our code or anything, but that's kind of where we're heading when we're looking at these larger. Maybe it won't have the name, Hilton, but it's owned by Hilton or something.
Right.
Well, I think part of this issue came out of some of our other work as well, because you do have a lot of mom and pop hotels in town, and they're getting bought up and repurposed. So, and you don't have any significant, other than maybe Grand Lake Lodge, resources for big groups. So it doesn't have to be a flag. It doesn't have to be a major national brand, but you could encourage some boutique that has 80 rooms, 100 rooms or something like that to come into town. Now, land obviously would be an issue. But we are losing hotel rooms in the area. The Rapids is for sale, like Western Riv is for sale. So it's a real crisis for you, really, from an external perspective.
I'm all for more hotels in town rather than just short-term rentals, honestly, but as a town, how much do we push that,
Maybe expand is not the right, maybe we've got the wrong wording here too. Maybe
I think I would go with the wrong wording here, because I would go back to what you had said prior about changing the conversation, where you jump in with Western Riv before, they sell. We find a buyer to come in and keep it the way that it is, or, going that route. To me, that would be of a high priority, to make sure that we don't lose these mom and pop hotels, just to go private or as an event space, that we might be seeing this spring. So I would change. I'm good with it being medium, if we change the word expand.
I think it's
encourage.
encourage, you hate to use the same word twice, but optimize would also work here. But I mean,
We'll put it in Chat GPT again.
um,
Leveling the playing field with Airbnbs also.
Well, I think you have a very hard sell there because you have to offer them something. You know, offer them tax incentives.
how about balanced lodging? How about promote balanced lodging? Because you need a little bit of all of those things.
Does that sound? Balanced lodging
Options.
options. Okay. Does that sound a little better to folks?
It does for me. Board?
I'm for it.
Yes.
Okay.
I think just as again, I want to say you're really in a crisis situation here. You need people to stay in town, and you're losing places for people to stay in town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those people who spend the most money are the people who are going to stay in the community.
Well, if you're saying it like that and trusting your experience, do you feel that it needs to be high? Board, how do you feel about making that high? Remember, I can't see you.
I just think you have a very hard sell getting somebody with a major flag to come in here without a year-round occupancy level. What are you going to do? Holiday Express?
No.
Yeah, that's what, if you're talking about conference rooms and stuff.
Well, are we talking about adding that necessarily, or are we just mostly focusing on what was just said, that we want to make sure we don't lose these buildings to something else, that we want to still continue to keep the lodging? Obviously, Western Riv, they could make it into, I mean, they could probably put conference rooms in there and whatnot, but if it's just a matter of keeping our hotels and not seeing them change into boutique shops, restaurants, somebody could change Western Riv into any number of things and it could no longer be lodging.
No, I would agree with that, Christina. We need to be on top of these.
That's the piece that I wonder if it's not, it is a higher priority so that we don't lose these facilities to something different.
Just one flagship.
So just make it promote balanced lodging options and take out the bottom part.
I don't know where you're gonna get with conference rooms and spas.
That's where the town steps in. That's where we're talking about this is you provide lodging, but the town has conference space that can be utilized. Bummer it's not on site, but to expand on it being in the community, it's in the community. People are maybe walking into these conferences more than likely or doing whatever they need to and then going out to eat in town rather than it all being at one location. Whether we talk about the space to create, having a little bit of a conference space available or capitalizing on the
Grand Lake Center,
the old theater here and everything as well. I would agree with Jim, and we just leave it as promote balanced lodging options, get rid of the lower portion there.
Okay. Yeah, because that maybe connotes more of like a flagship or something. Okay.
I think they've expressed it multiple times and it's kind of crisis though. And now you got Leatherwood that's going to take away another 30 rooms.
High.
yes, I agree, high.
So thinking high. Okay.
Let's make it high.
Okay. And then I just wanted to pause real quick just because we are just going, I know you guys have been here for a long time, so I just wanted to go over, we have these, and then we have quite a few to discuss when it comes to community, and then we have infrastructure. So I just wanted to check in and see if we're still doing okay to go through this, if we feel like we want to break and come back at another date. How is everyone feeling?
Finish economic development. Yeah. Let's finish economic development. That's pretty low.
Finish economic development? Okay.
Then regroup and see where we're at.
Then we'll finish our meeting.
Oh my gosh, you still have more to talk. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, we still.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll finish economic development and then we'll reconvene. I know the energy is great, but I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So, okay, pharmacy, that was brought up a couple times. Um, how are we feeling about this in terms of attracting a pharmacy?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a good idea. The only place that you could really attract one in my mind would be to the Middle Park Medical Center
Right.
at the center.
Hmm.
And it's gonna be the easiest one because they'd have the trained staff there and it wouldn't. So it's not necessarily like attracting a new business. It's possibly encouraging an existing business to expand.
Okay.
I just don't see how they can compete with the market.
I mean, they're just gonna.
Well, let's not, since we're short on time, let's not dive into how they can do it necessarily, but where is this at as a priority? And it sounds with what we're saying, it's fairly low priority at this juncture, just because we need Middle Park involved and we don't have the wherewithal right now.
Low.
Yeah, so well.
Okay.
These
Also,
businesses.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. I was gonna say also if someone could let Eric back into the meeting, his computer died and he's trying to get back in. Um, okay, business transition planning. I feel like this kind of goes into the lodging conversation we had as well. So making sure we're the town has these relationships with businesses. So that way, ideally, if they're selling, especially if it's a lodging option, they'll be selling to someone who will also provide lodging. I don't know if that's something that already exists as a resource in the town. It's something that we've been talking with the county about as well. So, what do we think about transition planning as a priority?
I mean, I would say it's medium to high, but
Yeah, I mean, you have these businesses come in.
I was unaware up until this evening that was even a possibility of keeping them doing what they were doing instead of, somebody buying the building and just doing whatever they want with it all the time.
I mean, even people will come in and, buy a hotel and then continue to hotel it. It's different to hotel here in Grand Lake than it is to hotel anywhere else in the state, especially if you don't have any background. So a lot of this training and planning and transitioning kind of is business to business based on, good neighbors kind of stuff. So it's kind of, I've never seen the town itself tap in and say, hey, this is.
Yeah, I don't know how we or how as we as the town even encourage that, I guess.
We got the chamber.
It's a new concept for me.
With the transition planning?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something I think it's definitely something that's growing in like different conversations that are happening just because it's happening nationally too. Just a lot of business owners are approaching retirement age. And when you're starting a business, you definitely have your business plan, but you're not always thinking about what you're going to do when it's time to stop running the business, every day, all day. So this could look like just working with the Chamber of Commerce on just helping to facilitate those conversations, right? So there are a lot of reasons why businesses have to leave. So if it could look more like providing some sort of resources. But yeah, would require further investigation. And I definitely think the county would be a partner on that as well. So I think people are saying more like medium or
Yes, medium.
yeah. Okay.
I mean, we need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
excessive.
similarly with training, or how are we feeling about training? Because with that too, we talked about engaging with retired professionals as well. Could be a partner in that.
I feel like as compared to the first one, the business training falls into businesses that are pre-existing, so kind of tough to change people's old ways.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it, everyone that has run a business here for a while, and they're pretty comfortable with how it is. And some businesses, add new features or remove stuff, but
I think you're volunteering to be part of the problem when you do that. If they don't succeed, they're gonna look back
I
and say,
think
well,
business training could be low.
I agree.
Do we want to, so just, do we want to keep it on there as something that the municipality needs to track, or do you want to sort of?
I'd nix it.
I'd remove it.
I'd nix it.
Yep.
Okay. Utilize and capitalize on the lake for all seasons.
I think we already covered that in the other.
Yeah.
So I think we can remove it from this.
Okay. Oh yeah, because I guess we did talk. I guess that kind of falls under season or seasonal events too.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that this one is going to be something that is really, especially in a smaller community like yours, that's got a lot of activity. It's going to become more and more critical that the public and the private sector are working together. That doesn't mean necessarily they're linked hand in hand, but there needs to be a very strong connection. And there will be some instances when, I mean, you in some sense, the town is in a lot of ways functioning like an economic development organization because you do so much to promote the local economy. Um, and chambers are shifting, their roles nationally are shifting all over the place, and a lot of them are kind of trying to figure out what does that look like, and um, so I think I'm just saying this just to kind of provide food for thought that thinking in terms of how the public sector engages with the private sector is really important, especially because you need so many more fudge places than what you've got. And you have a very
Thanks so much, Eric.
very self-serving managerial mayoral situation.
I
No
think this is a
competition
fairly
on.
high, oh, I'm sorry. I think this is a fairly high priority for us in Grand Lake and primarily because we are a small community. We do have a lot of private right now going on, even if it's in our rental properties where we have landlords that own, you know, several trailers or large apartment condo complexes. And I think this is high. It's going to be important. The reputation and the camaraderie between the two are important in such a small town.
I agree.
We agree. Okay. Let's see. Eric, do you want to talk about the gateway with Rocky Mountain National Park?
Yeah, earlier in the year, the town we had proposed working under our other project with Grand County that this actually came out of Rocky Mountain National Park and meeting with them. They wanted to figure out how do they engage with the western side of the park better. They'd had some housing facilities burned down in the fire. They felt like there was a real conversation about, hey, we put this information out and then the communities aren't using it. They didn't single out Grand Lake by any stretch. This was really more just general information. And we said, well, would it be helpful if there's some kind of a strategy? Because it doesn't sound like you guys have a clear plan for what's going to happen on the western side of the park. They said, yeah, it'd be great to get some kind of plan together. And then, I've got some friends who live in Columbine, and you've got Grand Lake Lodge that had a plan that was approved, but they never initiated it. So having some kind of a connectivity strategy that could be driven and should be driven by Grand Lake came up, and the state was all about it. DOLA was very much in favor of submitting on this. When Guy came in, he was not too keen on it. And it wasn't resubmitted. So the idea would be to really to put some kind of a strategy together that gives clear direction to the various entities on the western side of the park so that there's a much greater sense of, hey, this is what Grand Lake would like to see, this is what Columbine would like to see, this is what Grand Lake Lodge and the park would like to see. Really, probably more Grand Lake than anything, giving direction to them, saying, here's what we need to connect. And then communicating that also to the Department of Transportation and the county so they know what it is and how it is that you all want to work with them from an infrastructure standpoint, from an activity, from a communication, from a signage. That was kind of the thinking when we conceived of when we gave shape to the project. But it really came out of Rocky Mountain National Park saying, hey, we'd love for somebody to tell us what's going on over there and how we can engage better and work with them better. And then the conversation evolved from there. So DOLA had said that they wanted to give money to this initiative, and I know that you all voted to give some form of match. So it's just a function of, do we want to continue to proceed down this path? There's funding out there for this. I think that there's a lot of potential improvements that could happen in terms of pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular access, because that intersection leading into town doesn't really work very well. I mean, if you were to design it today, that's not at all how you would design it. And given that the town has purchased land over there, both the Matthews property and the property across from Conoco, I think thinking through how all that works together could be integrated into this. That was also part of the thinking, is what does the town need to get out of this?
Eric, I like what you just said in that last part. Kind of lost me in the beginning with this,
Chat GPT, that's all Chat GPT, the losing part.
just in my desire to where I want to put this, high, medium, or low. I think we do need to consider, the signage, access, entry. I'm wondering, asking the question, I guess, for the next one with events, is there something specific that falls into with the one above, with the gateway piece?
No, they're kind of different. Like, I don't know the history of the communication with the park and everybody else, and I know there's all this, I just, fair warning, like, I live in a national park. I cannot get to my house without driving through national park property. I have an easement through the national park, and it's a huge pain in the neck to deal with them. I literally, like, all of the foliage can overgrow my drive, and I'm not allowed to cut it without a permit. I do it anyway because I actually don't have a permit, because I can't find anybody to talk to give me the permit.
Right.
So I'm well aware of the challenges of dealing with the national park. Having said that, like, only 15% of the visitors into the park come through Grand Lake, come through the west entrance. There's probably a lot more room for that for activity there. The park is clearly not as invested in the western side. Um, so the idea is, how do we work together better? They feel like they've got some educational resources that they put into the western side, and then nobody takes them up on it. So I think it's a chicken and egg thing. Like, how hard are you promoting the events so that people know about it? Are you putting the burden on the communities to promote them? I don't know.
Right.
There's a lot of question marks there. So they're related, but they're different, is the answer. I think the idea is, um, the falls, the East Inlet parking, the North Inlet. Um, I'd never been up there until this summer, and it was awesome. So there's some stuff around there that really just feeds right into the town that could be more activated. And it doesn't, just guided hikes, stuff like that. It could be something as simple and inexpensive as that. Better programming that the park puts in that makes stronger connections with the town. So that would be different from a gateway concept where you're actually going to put together, hey, we need to work with CDOT and the county and others to make sure that our trail systems and our infrastructure and our roads and our signage are all working well. That's more gateway kind of stuff.
Okay.
Events is more like, hey, National Park, work with us. Promoting your events in the national park. Make sure the visitor center is communicating that clearly.
Um, I'll let the board, after I give my opinion, mine would be that the gateway portion would be relatively high considering I think it all kind of integrates into itself with the sidewalk that we want to put, from town all the way up. We've got the snowmobiling. We've already been working with CDOT. So I would say that would be high. As far as our the Rocky Mountain events, I'm a low on that, but I'll let the board go from there.
I mean, just like events, any event in Grand Lake, if you want the chamber to put it on their calendar, you have to go in there, put it in the calendar yourself. So, that could be a shortcoming on the parks end as well, just like any other nonprofit or organization trying to host an event in town. If you don't go in to the chamber's website and put that event in, unless it's one of the flagship ones, it's not going to get promoted. Yeah, ultimately, it's kind of a two-way street there, and I would agree on the low side of priority level there on the.
The only thing I'd inject with the events, and since you kind of broadened that out a little bit, the county tourism folks just changed their marketing team. So I think it's a real good time for you to engage with them and make sure that your events and your activities and the things you want to promote are being reflected accurately and well on their website and in their materials. That has kind of nothing to do with this, but whoever's the liaison to that group, this would be a good time, I think. I know they're making the transition in December to really make sure that you have a clear statement to them as to what you want them from them.
Thank you for that.
Again, not really part of this. I just wanted to make sure.
It's perfect.
I would agree that the gateway with the signage would be a high, but I also agree that low for the next one. Events. Else?
Yeah, the gateway. I had a guy stay at my place. He was a surveyor for National Park for some upcoming work, and he actually goes to all national parks to do survey work. And he was astounded as to how little signage there was for the national park. All the way to I-25, all the way to I-70, there's very little signage to indicate this very large landmark.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
as compared to other national parks.
I mean, I vividly remember the first time I came on a Labor Day. This is like in 2002. And we camped on the western side of the park. And I was like, this is amazing. It was just, and I had been on the other side a million times. But I just thought it was it was a totally different vibe, a different experience. There are a lot less people. And, it felt like a little secret that I figured out. But it's, that's probably not optimal if you're a tourist-based economy. You want people to know about it.
One would think.
And I know Diane loves citing the fact that she was at the top of Trail Ridge Road and somebody for the national park said, "Oh, there's nothing going on. Don't go west, go east." And she was like, "What?"
Yeah, that would definitely be a reason to engage with them. We need some reciprocity from them for who we are over here, and we haven't seen that in a long time, and it is needed. They need
Yeah,
to
and you have
show.
a relatively new superintendent and you have an interpretive person, Kim Swift, who came from my national park where I live and relocated there. So, you know, and she's good. So there's some good new resources there to engage with.
Okay, well, we'll put events low.
Events low, and we landed on high for the gateway.
Very well.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll pause there and we can pick back up at another time. Um, yeah, we'll reach out to you, I guess, just to see the next best time to meet. Just a reminder of kind of what the next steps will be once we prioritize everything is we'll create a summary of all these workshop findings, refine that matrix, and make recommendations for next steps. So that way we have a plan moving forward. And if there's anything you can think of in the meantime, here's all of our information. Please feel free to reach out to us. And I can share this with Steve and Elena, and you guys can share it with everyone if you'd like to. So
Perfect. And then we'll be planning on, we'll get back together and set a time, probably the first week in January, if that
Nope.
works for you guys.
sure.
What we'll do is we'll keep working on this, so we'll
Yeah.
have a little bit of a sense of what this might look like and what you're going to get out of it. So it'll, you know, it'll be a little bit of a different presentation. We'll finish this up and talk a little bit about next steps.
Mhm.
Great.
Could we get
Yeah.
those matrices that we didn't look at today sent over, just so maybe our next meeting, we could have a little bit more of a jump start and idea of what we expect those priority levels to be and expedite that next meeting?
Yeah,
Yep, that's easy.
we can do that. Yeah. Well, thank you. We appreciate your time so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Good
you.
day.
All right.
Thanks for being
Bye.
flexible with me. Take care.
No, no problem.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
I think I found his house. I was looking on Google, trying to figure out close to where's the closest entrance to a national park and
Which park?
Indiana Dunes. Right?
That's true. Good point.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, you crash on the wrong corner, you get the ticket from the national
Okay.
park.
Oh, yeah.
Not from, yeah. All right. We're gonna roll into consideration of resolution 76-2024. Resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation for the town of Grand Lake, Colorado for the calendar year of 2024.
Comply with state statute 29-1-109, the board must approve a resolution to appropriate additional funds for the town of Grand Lake for the 2024 budget year. The adjustments include the following: $78,000 increase for staffing adjustments, including 3 full-time and 1 part-time employee, $8,000 increase due to rising costs, $500 increase for mailing cost adjustments, and $9,000 for ongoing support of the Itron, Temetra, Cassell, and Executech systems. Additionally, this supplemental budget makes adjustments to accurately allocate the capital outlay and the operating expenses for the total appropriations for the fund, that they remain unchanged. What was done with the capital improvement fund is the board had talked about making some of the allocations properly put, whether it was capital outlay or operating expenses. Approval of the appropriations ensures compliance with state expenditures and reflects the necessary adjustments. Below is recommended action.
Is there a total for the appropriation? Or is it just the top water fund?
It's those amounts on the water fund.
And that's it?
86, $95,500.
This is for 2024.
Correct.
Oh, it's all the way at the top.
Right here at the bottom of the middle.
I move to adopt resolution 76-2024, resolution for supplemental budget and appropriation for the town of Grand Lake, Colorado for the calendar year 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
trustee Arnson,
Aye.
trustee Philbon,
Aye.
trustee Shoner,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist,
Aye.
Mayor Kudron.
Abstain.
Motion passes. On to 10B, consideration of resolution 77-2024, resolution setting certain fees and deposits. Is this the one you've been waiting for?
Pursuant to Grand Lake Municipal Code 2-3-2, the Board of Trustees has the authority to set fees, charges, and deposits for various services, including rentals provided by the town. The last time that the town adopted a fee schedule was on November 25th, 2024. Staff did let the Board of Trustees know that an updated fee schedule would be presented. It was essential for the board to pass the fee schedule on November 25th to give folks enough notice to prepare for the fee increases for the nightly rental license and the water. The staff has added code enforcement fees for parking violations. Ayers Associates, who we have contracted with for planning services, has made some recommendations on the fees and deposits based upon what they are seeing in other communities. They're recommending that the town collect a straight fee for application to cover municipal expenses, which will cut down on staff time spent on tracking materials and hours. They also recommend keeping deposit requirements to cover external planning and engineering services. Their recommendations have been highlighted. At the most recent staff meeting, as well as with the board, staff has added the Grand Lake Center fees for instructors. We've also included the instructor fee schedule for the Grand Lake Center instructor lease agreement. I have had a number of discussions with the Grand Lake Center manager, and we want to give, staff wants to give this a try. There is concern with Grand Lake Center staff that it may be too onerous for instructors. The goal is to try to use those instructor rooms to be able to maximize their utilization while passing on the costs to as many instructors as possible. Staff has updated the fees that were approved at the last meeting for the nightly rental fees. Under state laws, all fees must defray the reasonable direct and indirect costs of administering the service or to offset the impact of the services. All of these considerations have been made. The fee schedule follows below. Let me know if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Come on up.
Go to the parking fee first ones.
That's where
John Work, 1015 Mountain Avenue.
It's page 105, right there.
Here, parking violations. Different ones there. I've looked at the code. What is a parking violation? First question I have for you. The second question is, who is going to issue them? And from what I understand, if the vehicle is on a street, we've had this conversation, and it's licensed, that's the county sheriff's give them tickets.
Correct.
Now, are you going to give parking violations to people who are on town right of way?
Yes.
Are you going to remove dumpsters and things like that? That's on town right of way. I mean, it all starts to go in the town right of way.
Correct.
People have been parking for years on town right of way
Correct.
and for longer than 3 days, because you can do it for 3 days legally.
Not if your vehicle's not registered or insured. You
Well,
cannot.
right, if
Then
it's-
it's an obstruction of the right of way and I
I
can.
can park in front of my house for 3 days without anybody bothering me.
Yes. We talked about changing that,
I'm just,
but yes.
even though the people across the street have 60 feet parking, but that's
Yeah.
a different subject. So who would give that ticket?
I do.
Code
You
enforcement.
give the ticket?
The code enforcement officer gives the tickets in the town right of way if they are not licensed. If they are parking violations and they are licensed vehicles, we call the sheriff's department.
So as a conversation we had about confrontation, I would hate the confrontation come up when people are be giving tickets and they start saying I'm grandfathered in and everything else. Just bringing it up, you answered my question. The second thing, could you please go to nightly rentals for the fines, permits? It's under administrative and PW of off-site parking. Off-street parking. Got a $20,000 price tag next to it.
That's parking in lieu.
Nightly rentals, there we go. Right here? Right here? I can't read that far. Is that what you're saying here? It just looks like a big number.
Rental application fee.
Oh, wait, hold on. Right here, 20,000.
Yeah, off-street parking.
Yes.
What is that?
So it is the same as if you were to short-term rentals require 2 off-street parking spaces. If they don't have 2 off-street parking spaces, they may purchase a town right-of-way space to satisfy that requirement for $20,000.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and you just question again. I have a nightly rental. I'm gonna have people there for a week. They can stay for that week and park on town property.
They have to move every 72 hours.
Have to move every 72 hours.
It is a license consideration because they don't have them available to them. Kind of like the same as a business. A business has to have 5 parking spaces, and there are certain that are allocated to them in a commercial zone. The same thing holds true for a nightly rental. You have to have 2 off-street spaces. If you cannot provide those,
Then you pay.
for the right to qualify.
That also fall into the category of hotels, and I'll throw myself under the bus with the question. Across the street, they have cabins.
Yeah,
So each cabin's supposed to have 2 spots, or?
it depends upon, so the way that it is set up for short-term rentals, correct, is the short-term rentals have to have allocations which are calculated. And the planning department makes those calculations based upon the properties.
And the only reason I bring this up, when I was a trustee, nightly rentals came up, and you had to have parking on your property for people, not allowed to park in the street,
Right.
and that's been changed.
That's what this is for, right?
Thank you.
Yep.
So there are plenty of STRs that I know of that, just like Mickey's house, their building back in the 40s was built on the lot line. And you don't have access to the rest. How does that work? Do they get a variance?
I think so.
I mean, there's physically nowhere else to put parking on their property. Either they have to demo a building, or a good example was like the old band building.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much zero lot line, I'm assuming. On the front, I don't know if they have parking inside, but pretty much everything is.
I'd have to look at each one of those cases and the way that they were resolved and given the permits before.
The short-term rental rules are pretty clear, though. You can't park on the street. You have to be off-street parking.
Just a question is,
Mhm.
there are some where it's like,
Right.
there is no option. You have to park in the right way.
Right.
Because that's how they plan the parking when they built the structure in 1940, 1950.
Right. And I have to look at each one of those licenses to see, and my guess would be that a variance would be in order if somebody were to come and to demonstrate a hardship. To me, it would be hard to justify if somebody was renting out a place at $97 a night, or a 500 square foot condo, or a 500 square foot cabin. Yeah.
The town, you don't have, you know,
Right.
second homeowners.
Right.
Who have to park on street because there's no room.
Right.
I mean, they got actually, they're less than 10 feet too on both sides. I guess we would just have to address those individually.
And I think that that was the purpose of this, is because of that fee. And this is not this I think was in here last year. I do know that I've been approached by a couple short-term renters about their need to have the 2 spaces. Any other questions about the fee schedule?
Ayers provided all this land use related stuff. Is that correct?
Correct. And as we continue to evolve the planning department and make sure that our new planner has the resources to do their job and doesn't get over job, Ayers will still be here for major development projects. What this allows for is that their costs will be completely covered without us making any adjustments.
There's nothing further. We'll consider action on this issue.
Move to approve resolution 77-2024, resolution setting certain fees in deposit.
Does this include the water change?
Yes. I think it's on page 5. Everything's in there pretty much. And we did send out the letters, and corrections were made, right? Because the first letters went out saying that it was going up to 160 a month from 143 a quarter. I did have a couple people walk in the duck shop for that one.
Phone calls.
We got a lot of them.
People read their mail.
No.
Rick was furious.
Yeah.
There were 50 people in the store and he would not move.
Did you buy a duck?
No.
No, I'm bad not.
You made a motion?
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion? Can I get a call on the roll?
Trustee Sobel?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Schoner?
Aye.
Trustee Arnson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist?
Aye.
Mayor Kendall?
Abstain.
Right. Right along.
All right.
Matt, where's your dump truck fee on here?
All equipment, all in the same
Okay. I didn't see it.
charge.
All right.
The next item. Oh, that's.
Yeah, next item, we're on to consideration of a modular lease with Grand County Water Information Network.
The 2 modular buildings that are located at the Grand Lake Center have been leased by nonprofits for a minimal amount of rent over a period of time. The purpose of this lease is to update the lease with the Grand County Water Information Network. Let me know if you have any questions. And this is $600 per year,
What's the term?
1 year,
Year to year.
60 days. They're 1 year leases because they're municipal leases.
We redevelop the site.
We just did a rate increase on them not too long ago, so.
Sorry. Trying to track it down.
There isn't a.
Just approve it.
We just have the leases in the packet. So if you're looking for a suggested motion, it's not in here.
Suggested motion would be I move that the mayor signs the lease agreement with the Grand County Water Information Network.
The lease
For
of the
the-
modular building.
That's a motion.
Second.
I could.
Sure.
There you go. There's my motion for the year of 2025.
Right, so Juan, you said second?
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
trustee Arnson,
Aye.
trustee Shoner,
Aye.
trustee Sobon,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist.
Aye.
Abstain.
Next up, consideration of modular lease with the Grand Lake Area Historical Society. One down, lease information on this one is the same, aside from the fact that the year lease is $1,200 versus the $600 on the last one.
They get two sides.
Yeah, they get 1.5 of
Yeah.
those for sure.
Same discounted rate.
Yes.
I move to instruct the mayor to sign the lease with the Grand Lake Area Historical Society for the modular building unit in the modular building for year 2025.
Second.
Have a motion, we'll call the roll.
Trustee Arnson,
Aye.
trustee Shoner,
Aye.
trustee Miller,
Aye.
trustee Sobon,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist.
Aye.
Abstain. As has been tradition over the last more than 20 years, the Board of Trustees, as long as their statutorily required duties have been fulfilled, have found it in the best interest of staff and the board to cancel the second meeting of December so that staff and families can more enjoy the holidays and get a fresh start on 2025. Staff put this consideration in front of you for your consideration. There are no suggested motions. You'll have to wing it.
Faith in you guys. You guys got this.
Practice.
To cancel the next Board of Trustees meeting on December 23rd, 2020.
Second.
There's a mo-
There's a motion. Please hold the board.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Scheller.
Getting ahead of myself.
Trustee Arnson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist.
Aye.
Abstain. Next item is future items for consideration. We're going to want to put our workshop on the next agenda item. Continuing our priorities workshop. We also have, let me go look at my board.
Who would you hear this from again?
Say that again. What is it?
Downstate Snowcat wants to do tours over Trail Ridge in the wintertime. So they pick up in Estes Park, bring people over here for a couple days, and then take it back. Or vice versa.
One of the vegan or this.
I'll say.
It's like 35 feet deep sometimes.
Well, that's one of the arguments that the park would be in favor of. Drifts, they would be at a lower elevation.
It's not a robot operated.
No, but they do have GPS down to half.
Okay.
Exactly where the road is.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to make the wrong turn around. Lava
No.
course.
The other,
Downer.
So, but this would be one of their people for your cat.
They're a local operator in the east side of the county and around the state, so they're fairly local and
the other,
Expressed that he roadblock would wants to get it going and supposedly has support thing.
Can we take the Argo over it?
We could, yeah, we could definitely follow a
On a
street with Argo, but I
on
wouldn't
a
want to
rope.
make the trail with Argo. But yeah, evidently he's run into some roadblocks along the way and would like some help navigating that and would like us to at least facilitate some level of that contact with the park and the chamber. And
just looking for a letter of support or something beyond that.
I think he'd like to come in and sit down and maybe even try to have the park on Zoom or something like that and say, this is what the next step is. And then, okay, well, it's, Grand Lake saying we could help facilitate with the pickup at the 10-mile mark. Or maybe they don't plow to the 10-mile mark anywhere more because he's grooming it and they can ski and snowshoe on that whole trail. There's all kinds of different pieces of this puzzle. But he would like to start the conversation.
Get the high kid.
Yeah, that's right. I
and as
know.
long as that's part of the workshop, I'm good.
Right to the Stanley Hotel.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. The overnight thing is interesting factor to it, but
Yeah.
definitely one to look into.
Yeah,
We have the rec vans that aren't getting used in the.
that's exactly one of the, but that would be, who's driving it? Is the Historic Society driving it? Like those are all,
The historic.
who's driving it? Is Public Works going up there and pick them up? Bring them, they got to sell a whole package with, I would think, with a motel and everybody on.
On the way back.
But yeah, so he would like to talk to everybody and have some help putting it together. I think it'd be really cool for us.
We do too.
So,
Sounds interesting.
all right, if you're open to it, I would invite him.
Great.
I have a couple policies I'm putting before you guys, and then my annual posting for the library and for town, or sorry, not the library. Get me all caught up over there, Mickey.
Oh,
The
what,
post office.
where where the notices will be posted? Great. Kind of piggybacking off of our priorities workshop, and it was alluded to, as we see more and more properties and businesses for sale for between $1 million and $1.5 million. That's kind of like the magic number. I just want to get on the board's radar as to what we talked about a little bit with the priorities. What does the role of government hold to getting involved in keeping businesses open, or do we let the market scrape them and drive other business? And if those businesses go away, maybe the new 10 businesses that are built as part of Leatherwood, maybe we shouldn't be worrying about it, but I think we should have a discussion and kind of understand what we're looking at least. And I'll try to bring in some people that may have some thoughts.
Or for sale, right?
At least 6, maybe 7.
That's right.
At least 6, maybe 7 properties.
Properties.
Yeah.
I think things are for sale that they're not telling you.
Right.
And it's all kind of quiet.
But the ones that are for sale, there's at least 6. Right. They're all Grand Avenue properties. So I just want to open up that door.
Boutique hotel?
Do we?
Question, do we?
That's what we should talk about, not at 10 to 9.
No.
But it is, and I think it's important because for us, we generate our revenues from sales taxes. It doesn't mean that they have to come from the same doors that they come from now. But as trustees and as leaders of the town, you have to look at least understand what the plan is in case it explodes. There's somebody to blame.
Are we putting the target on ourselves?
Not today. But I'm hoping that maybe what we do is that we create a response and a confidence in that, town's taken care of itself for 100 years. And some of the same problems that we talk about, I was reminded about last week, that mayors 30 years ago had the same questions, the same issues with housing, with businesses not making it. If you want to make $1 million in Grand Lake, come with 2. They're the same stories. Mickey told me, he was the first one that told me that.
We're a tourist town. If you don't like it here, why don't you move? Those people are gone. I'm still here. I'm just saying.
Those are, and it's interesting because we've gone through a lot of change and we can continue to worry about things, or we can say we're going the right way and just focus on that. So I want to have that discussion with the businesses because it's always around. So I think that's enough.
Okay.
Mayor's report. Can I talk?
Yeah.
So this is the last mayor's report. I've been kind of pushing it off. And because I've been doing a lot of different things. But Friday, the board, staff, and so many of the people that are part of this town in making it run, all got together and had kind of a nice time. And I think everybody enjoyed it. One of the things that I recognized when I got excited and started saying thank yous is I certainly don't know everybody's name that helps this town, and there's an awful lot of them. And I even get to the point where I sometimes might even miss saying the right people at the right time. And because we live in a wonderful place like Grand Lake, I'll be called out on it in a heartbeat. So what I wanted to do was I actually spent some time, I didn't do names, but this is a small town, 400 people. And, they talk about it takes a village. It takes a lot of people to make this town run. So as 24 comes to an end, it is with gratitude that I thank all the people who make our little town this special, authentic place. The first people that I want to thank are the people of the town of Grand Lake, the 421 of you and us. Because we are welcomers to millions of people. We are independent and we are a little vicious when it comes to getting in our space and doing things the wrong way in our eyes. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to the Grand Lake Town Trustees. This is a very difficult job that this board moves through really well. You guys don't leave here crying, bruised and battered, sometimes just a little beaten. Thank you. To the town staff, to the people at the town hall, the Grand Lake Center, Public Works, Water Department, and the Marina. It's a lot of people who do even more jobs. We're going to keep asking you to do more jobs, and I want to thank you all. The Planning Commission is our trusted ally to understand the rules and the regulations, to help guide us to make Grand Lake a better place. I trust the commission to do their job, and I think it is the role of the board and staff to stay out of it and don't influence them. That's what keeps their role so important. The cemetery committee, there are 4 people, and they are there for every person that called Grand Lake home and then went to see their maker. It's a special place up there, and it's a special responsibility that we bear. There's about half a dozen people that have been taking star and night sky readings for the last year and a half. The Coalition for the Stars. As a board of trustees, you approved an ordinance so that we can start telling people to turn their damn lights down. And I like that. For our town attorneys, I'm grateful to Scotty and Dan and his team. They've been doing it for a long time, and the board took a look to make sure that they were the ones we want, and they are. For the 3 ladies at Hilly Long that pop around in their little jalopies, watering the flowers and the greens that people don't understand when they come into town, how all of those blooms happen between June and September. And they know how to make it work. They like them. They really do. Some of the other partners, the Grand County Sheriff's Office, they're not here enough. They're here too much. It depends upon the day. The Chamber of Commerce, those things are changing. We as a board, we need to sit down with the Chamber's board. The Chamber has changed over the last several years in a good way, I think. And we need to ensure that the way that we communicate and that our clear expectations between the two. Since I have been in leadership, we have acknowledged that the Three Lakes Watershed Association, founded in 1953, are the people that have the smarts and the answers for how to protect Grand Lake, and they do. And it was because of their efforts that we got that $1.2 million. It's their name on the first for us. We talked about the Creative District, and some of these groups have been around for a long time. So when I talk about the district forming in 2018, what we can't forget is that the Grand Arts Council has been doing it for 30 years, and the Grand Lake Area Historical Society has been around for longer. The new people to the area of the Rocky Mountain Folk School is bringing classes, and take a look at our newsletter that comes out. Go to the town of Grand Lake and look at the newsletter. There are classes on classes on classes. If you're bored, there's something to do. The Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater continues to bring musical theater here, and it's just wonderful. The Grand County Library District is now open 5 days. When I got here, they were open 2.5. And The programs that they do for seniors, the programs that they do for kids, their after-school programs is nothing short of wonderful. And they do it with a very little amount of money. The Rocky Mountain Wooden Boat School are still a bunch of dreamer people that believe that we can build boats here, sail them, and teach people a skill that has been around for generations. Shadow Cliff is going to be bringing back their artist in residence program. It really worked out well in the late part of the summer. Troublesome Fest continues to be part of the creative district, and I hope that they just bring a bigger and better and more fun event in September. Our government partners, Grand County, the Grand Foundation, Grand County Water Information Network, Rocky Mountain National Park, the Kawanichi Valley Restoration Collaborative. If you ever want to go walk out and look and see what they're doing, ask me and I'll take you out. The Forest Service, the Northwest Council of Governments, Grand Lake Fire Protection District, Grand County EMS, the U.S. Postal Service, Grand Lake, Colorado office. How many times do we hear what crappy service there is in the mountains? Yet we just walk into smiling faces and some of the most amazing, wonderful, patient people in the world. And they still take a ribbing because when they put a sign on that says boxes aren't out yet, I just can't help myself and go in and say, are the boxes out yet? And they still let me come in. So I appreciate that. I really, really do. The local organizations that are part of our team, the Grand Lake Yacht Club since 1898, the Grand Lake Rotary Club, the Grand Lake Women's Club, the Grand Lake Gentlemen's Club, Grand Lake Trail Grooming. These are all things that are run by volunteers that just keep this town real. Three Lakes Metropolitan District and the Grand Lake Recreation District ensure that we've got golf, tennis, sewer, and gray water. It's all good stuff. All of our businesses, they're another part. Without the businesses, we don't have a town. We have 4 churches. We have Mountain Parks Electric, Three Lakes. These are the people that live here. These are our neighbors and our friends. Middle Park Health and all the community of Grand Lake of 80447 that call themselves Grand Lakers. You know, we have people from the other side of 34 that call town hall every day wanting a permit or wanting to know if they can expand their house that they've lived in for 25 years and they want to do it right. So they wanted to call town hall first. And it's because they bought a house in Grand Lake in 1998 and we're a piece of property and they're finally here. I got to tell them this morning, you're a Grand Laker, but you don't live in Grand Lake. Here's a number to the county. It happens more often than we know, but we still embrace them all as Grand Lakers. So to all of these people whose names number more than the number of this, I say thank you and cheers, because we are Grand Lake, because not every place has so many people that care the way we do.
Hopefully.
I hope not.
All right. Entertain one more action.
To adjourn tonight's regular Board of Trustees meeting.
Second.
Right on.
All right, Trustee Stoner?
Aye.
Trustee Silbon?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Aronson?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Berquist?
Aye, and Steve, excellent mayor's report this evening.
Beautiful. And Mayor Tudron?
Aye.
We are adjourned. We will see you next year.
Hey, do you have checks for us? Merry Christmas.
Bye, guys. Thank you, Scotty.
Thanks, guys.
Help sign these with me.
Yeah, I gotta sign a bunch. I gotta clear my desk.
Well, to put up the change, if you write Merry Christmas, if you darn point, check the spelling. No, you know. Check the spelling.
Excellent.
No. Oh, no. He's putting up things. I can't. Spelling's wrong. It's really loose. Oh, I don't know. She showed you? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, take care from me. Okay. Can I put out Merry Christmas? I